At 3:17 a.m. on March 15, 2024, Elon Musk's phone shattered the silence with a call that would change everything. "Mr. Musk, this is Sergeant Rodriguez from the Travis County Sheriff's Department. I'm calling about your son." The words every parent dreads. But what came next, the crime, the reason, and what the world's richest man chose to do about it, would shock millions and spark a movement that spread across 12 cities in just 2 weeks. This isn't a story about a troubled celebrity kid. It's about 7 people who slept warm on a freezing night, about empty luxury apartments and full homeless shelters, about a father and son who barely knew each other, forced together by handcuffs and headlines, and about a single question that wouldn't go away. When the math doesn't add up, who has the courage to break the rules? The arrest was just the beginning. The phone rang at exactly 3:17 a.m. Elon Musk jerked awake in his Austin bedroom, his heart already pounding before his eyes were fully open. After 20 years of building rockets and electric cars, after countless all-night engineering sessions and crisis calls from factories across 3 continents, his body had learned to recognize the difference between a normal late-night call and the kind that changed everything. This was the second kind. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand, squinting at the bright screen in the darkness. The caller ID read, Travis County Sheriff's Department. His mouth went dry. "Hello." His voice came out rough, still thick with sleep. "Mr. Musk," a woman's voice, professional but tired. "This is Sergeant Rodriguez from the Travis County Sheriff's Department. I'm calling about your son." Time seemed to slow down. Elon sat up straighter, his engineering brain already running through scenarios, probabilities, outcomes. His son Alex was 18 now, a freshman at the University of Texas at Austin. Smart kid, quiet. They hadn't talked much lately. Elon had been at the Boca Chica launch facility for the past 2 weeks preparing for the next Starship test. "Is he hurt?" The words came out sharper than he intended. "No, sir, he's not injured, but he's been arrested." The word hit him like a physical blow. Arrested, his son. The media would have this story by sunrise. Tesla's stock would drop. The board would panic. But underneath all those automatic CEO thoughts, a deeper, more primal fear grabbed hold. His child was in trouble. Arrested for what? There was a pause on the other end, papers rustling. "Sir, I think it would be better if we discuss this in person. Your son is being held at the Travis County Jail on West 10th Street. Can you come down to the facility?" "What are the charges, Sergeant?" Elon's voice dropped to the tone he used in board meetings when someone was hiding bad news. Another pause, longer this time. "Breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, conspiracy to commit property damage. There are other individuals involved. It's a complicated situation, Mr. Musk." Elon's mind raced. Breaking and entering, Alex, the kid who spent most of his time reading philosophy books and arguing about climate policy. It didn't make sense. Unless. Was he drunk? Hi, what happened? "Sir, your son was completely sober. Stone cold sober, actually. Like I said, this is complicated. How soon can you get here?" Elon was already standing, reaching for the jeans he'd left on the chair. Through his bedroom window, he could see the lights of Tesla's gigafactory in the distance, a small city of innovation that never slept. He'd moved to Austin 3 years ago, relocating Tesla's headquarters from California, chasing lower taxes and fewer regulations. He told himself it would be good for the kids too, closer to family, a fresh start. Now his son was in jail 4 miles away. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, he said. "Mr. Musk, one more thing." Sergeant Rodriguez's voice shifted, becoming quieter, almost sympathetic. "You should know there were cameras everywhere. This is going to be a media situation. You might want to bring your legal team." "I'll handle it," Elon said, and ended the call. He stood in the darkness of his bedroom, phone still in his hand, and felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years, complete helplessness. He could build electric cars that drove themselves. He could land rockets on floating platforms in the ocean. He'd become one of the richest people on Earth by refusing to accept the word impossible. But he couldn't rewind time, couldn't undo whatever his son had done, couldn't fix the fact that he'd been too busy changing the world to notice his own kid spinning out of control. His phone buzzed with incoming texts. His head of security, "Sir, seeing reports of incident involving family member, awaiting instructions." His PR director, "Elon, call me ASAP. Emergency." 3 board members, 2 executives. He silenced them all. Elon pulled on a black t-shirt and grabbed his car keys from the dresser. His hands were shaking slightly, a detail that annoyed him. He didn't shake. He negotiated billion-dollar deals without flinching. He'd stood in front of rocket explosions and smiled for the cameras. But this was different. This was his son. He walked through his quiet house, past the rooms where his other children slept, unaware that their brother was in jail. Past the home office where he'd spent countless nights on video calls with engineers in California and Florida and Germany, solving problems, pushing boundaries, building the future. The future. He'd been so focused on Mars, on making humanity a multiplanetary species, on saving civilization from climate change and artificial intelligence and all the other existential threats that kept him up at night. But what about the present? What about the 18-year-old kid who apparently needed his father more than he needed humanity's backup planet? Elon reached his Tesla Model S Plaid in the garage. Black, sleek, capable of 0 to 60 in 199 seconds. He'd helped design it. He knew every engineering decision that went into making it the fastest production car in the world. But as he slid into the driver's seat and pressed the start button, he realized he had no idea what decisions had led his son to a jail cell at 3 in the morning. He pulled out of his driveway, heading toward Interstate 35. The streets of Austin were nearly empty at this hour. Just a few trucks making deliveries, a couple of cars leaving the bars on 6th Street. The city had changed so much since he'd moved here. More tech companies, more construction, more traffic during the day. But at night, it still felt like Texas. Big sky, wide roads, everything spread out. His GPS estimated 14 minutes to Travis County Jail, 14 minutes to figure out what to say to his son, 14 minutes to prepare for whatever was coming. What had Alex done? Breaking and entering suggested he'd broken into somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. But where and why? The kid had unlimited money on his credit cards. If he wanted to get into a club or a party, he could have paid his way. Conspiracy to commit property damage, that meant he'd planned this with other people. This wasn't some drunk mistake. This was intentional. Elon's phone rang again. His ex-partner, Alex's other parent, calling from California. He let it go to voicemail. He didn't have answers yet. No point in having that conversation twice. The Tesla hummed silently through the empty streets, past the Texas State Capitol building, its dome lit up against the night sky like a beacon. Elon had met with the governor in that building 6 months ago, discussing tax incentives and infrastructure for the Gigafactory expansion. Everyone smiling, shaking hands, celebrating Texas's newest corporate citizen. What would they think when they saw tomorrow's headlines? Elon Musk's son arrested. Tesla heir in custody. Troubled teen or entitled rich kid. The labels would stick whether they were true or not. That was how media worked now. First headline wins. Truth comes later, buried in paragraph 12 of a follow-up story no one reads. But Elon knew something the headline writers didn't. Alex wasn't a troubled teen. Quiet, yes, distant maybe, but troubled. The kid got straight A's, never touched drugs, barely drank. His biggest rebellion had been choosing to study environmental science instead of engineering. So what had changed? Elon turned onto Cesar Chavez Street, getting closer now, 5 minutes away. His chest felt tight. When was the last time he'd actually talked to Alex? Really talked, not just a quick text or a rushed phone call between meetings. It had been weeks, maybe longer. He remembered his own father, Elon Musk, back in South Africa, the distance between them, the years of barely speaking. Elon had sworn he'd be different. He'd be present for his kids. He'd break the cycle. But here he was at 3 in the morning, rushing to bail out a son he barely knew anymore. The GPS announced, "You have arrived at your destination." Travis County Jail sat ahead, a concrete building at 500 West 10th Street, lit by harsh fluorescent lights. A few police cars sat in the parking lot. Everything looked official and cold and absolutely real. Elon parked and sat in the car for a moment, gathering himself. Through the windshield, he could see the entrance. Somewhere inside that building, his son was waiting in a cell, probably scared, probably angry, probably wondering if his father would even show up. He got out of the car and walked toward the entrance, his sneakers quiet on the pavement. The automatic doors slid open and cool air-conditioned air hit his face. The lobby was small, sterile, with plastic chairs and a bulletproof glass partition separating the waiting area from the booking desk. A heavy-set sergeant with tired eyes looked up from her computer. Her nameplate read, Rodriguez. "Mr. Musk," she said, not a question. Everyone recognized him now. "Thanks for coming so quickly." "Where's my son?" "He's in a holding cell. Before you see him, I need to explain the situation." She gestured to a door beside the partition. "Come on back. We'll talk in an interview room." Elon followed her through the door, down a hallway that smelled like industrial cleaner and old coffee. She led him into a small room with a table, 3 chairs, and a camera mounted in the corner. "Have a seat," she said. He sat. His leg bounced nervously under the table, another detail that annoyed him. Sergeant Rodriguez sat across from him, folding her hands on the table. "Mr. Musk, your son was arrested at approximately 11:45 p.m. yesterday evening near the West 6th Street district. He was with 3 other individuals, all students at UT Austin." "What did they do?" "They broke into a luxury apartment complex under construction. The Skyline Residences, maybe you've seen it. 20-story building, high-end units. They accessed the property through a service entrance they'd somehow gotten a code for." Elon frowned. Were they vandalizing it, stealing? Sergeant Rodriguez's expression shifted slightly, and for the first time, Elon saw something other than professional courtesy in her eyes, something almost like respect. "That's where this gets complicated," she said. "Mr. Musk, we need to talk before you see him. This situation," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "it's not what you think." 6 months earlier, September 2023. Alex Musk had learned early in life that having everything meant nothing if you had no one to share it with. He stood in his dorm room at Jester Hall on the University of Texas campus, unpacking boxes while his roommate, a kid named Tyler from Houston, watched videos on his phone and pretended not to recognize him. The pretending was obvious. Tyler had done a double take when they first met, his eyes widening with recognition before he forced his face back to neutral. "So, what's your major?" Tyler asked, still not looking up from his screen. "Environmental science," Alex said, hanging up shirts in the tiny closet. "You?" "Computer engineering." "Cool, cool," Tyler nodded, then finally put down his phone. "Listen, man, I'm just going to say it. I know who your dad is. But I'm not going to be weird about it, okay? I'm not going to ask you for Tesla stock tips or whatever." Alex felt the familiar tightness in his chest. This was always the moment. The moment when he stopped being Alex and became Elon Musk's son. When every conversation became about his father, every friendship became a calculation of whether people liked him or liked his last name. "Thanks," he said quietly. "I appreciate that." "No problem, dude." Tyler went back to his phone and Alex went back to unpacking, and that was that. The elephant acknowledged, then ignored. It was the best he could hope for. Later that evening, Alex walked across campus to the Environmental Science Building for freshman orientation. The September heat still hung in the air, even at 7 p.m. Students everywhere, laughing, taking selfies, carrying boxes, hugging parents goodbye. Normal college stuff. Alex walked alone. His father had offered to help him move in. Actually, he'd offered to send his assistant to help him move in. When Alex said no thanks, Elon had seemed almost relieved. He was deep into preparations for the next Starship launch, dealing with some technical problem with the heat shields. Alex had learned not to take it personally. His father didn't miss events because he didn't care. He missed them because he cared about everything, which meant he couldn't be fully present for anything. The orientation was boring, administrators talking about course requirements and campus resources. Alex sat in the back, scrolling through his phone. His Twitter feed was full of posts about his father's latest interview, where Elon had announced plans for a crewed Mars mission by 2028. People were either calling him a visionary or a fraud. Nothing in between. Never anything in between. After the orientation ended, Alex headed toward the exit, but a voice stopped him. "Hey, you're in my intro to environmental systems class." He turned. A girl with dark curly hair and an old backpack covered in protest pins stood behind him. She wore a faded t-shirt that said, "There is no planet B," and had dirt under her fingernails like she'd been gardening. "Yeah, I think so," Alex said. "I'm Sophia Martinez." She stuck out her hand. No recognition in her eyes, no double take, just a normal introduction. He shook her hand, feeling something unfamiliar, relief. Alex, you coming to the Environmental Action Group meeting tomorrow? We're organizing a campus cleanup and talking about the new fossil fuel divestment campaign. Maybe, he said. Where is it? Student Union, 3rd floor, 6 p.m. You should come. We need people who actually care, not just people padding their resumes. She smiled. See you in class, Alex. She walked away before he could respond, leaving him standing there feeling like maybe, possibly, college wouldn't be exactly like high school had been. Like maybe here he could be someone other than a last name. October 2023. Alex started attending the Environmental Action Group meetings. There were about 15 regular members, mostly students passionate about climate change, environmental justice, and corporate accountability. Sophia was the president. She ran meetings with fierce efficiency, cutting off people who rambled, challenging weak arguments, pushing everyone to think bigger. At the third meeting, she presented statistics on Austin's housing crisis. Median rent has increased 47% in 5 years, she said, clicking through slides on her laptop. There are over 3,400 people experiencing homelessness in Travis County. Meanwhile, there are an estimated 12,000 vacant housing units in Austin. The math doesn't work. We have empty homes and homeless people. That's not a supply problem, it's a distribution problem. Alex sat in the back listening. He'd never thought about it before. When you grew up with unlimited resources, you didn't think about people who had none. Not because you were cruel, but because you literally couldn't see them. They existed in a different world. After the meeting, he approached Sophia. Those statistics about vacant housing, where'd you get them? Census data, city reports, advocacy organizations. She looked at him curiously. Why? Just interested. It's crazy that we have enough housing, it's just not being used right. Welcome to capitalism, she said, not unkindly. Everything's a commodity, even shelter, even human dignity. Another student joined them, a tall black guy with glasses and a quiet intensity. Sophia, you still want to scout those locations downtown on Saturday? Yeah, definitely. Marcus, this is Alex, he's new. Marcus nodded at Alex. You're the guy who asked about carbon capture tech last week, right? That was a good question. Thanks, Alex said, surprised to be remembered for something he'd said rather than something his father had done. Marcus is studying computer science, Sophia explained. He's helping us map vacant properties and homeless encampments so we can visualize the problem better. Data makes it real, Marcus said. Hard for people to ignore maps. Alex found himself saying, I could help with that. I'm pretty good with data analysis. Sophia and Marcus exchanged glances. Yeah, Sophia said. You free Saturday morning? That Saturday, Alex rode his bike downtown with Sophia, Marcus, and another student named James who was studying social work. They spent 4 hours walking through downtown Austin, James talking to homeless individuals while Marcus marked locations on a tablet and Sophia took notes. Alex mostly watched and listened. They met a veteran named Robert who slept under the Lamar Boulevard Bridge. A woman named Diana who kept her belongings in a shopping cart and knew every church that served free meals. A teenager not much younger than Alex who'd run away from an abusive home and now sheltered in a doorway on 6th Street. Systems broken, James explained as they walked. Shelters are full, waiting lists for housing assistance are years long, and meanwhile luxury apartments sit empty because developers would rather keep them vacant than lower prices. Why don't they just lower prices? Alex asked. Because then all the occupied units would demand lower rent too, Sophia said. It's more profitable to keep some units empty and maintain high prices on the rest. It's a game, and people are the pieces. Alex thought about his dorm room, his apartment back in California, the houses his family owned. He'd never spent a single night without shelter, never even worried about it. That evening, he tried calling his father. It went to voicemail. He tried texting instead. Alex, Dad, you ever think about housing policy? Like why we have homeless people when we have empty buildings? 3 hours later, his father responded. Dad, complex problem, supply-demand, regulatory issues. Cities need to reduce building restrictions. Working on it with prefab housing concepts at Tesla. Talk soon. Not exactly the conversation Alex had hoped for, but at least it was something. November 2023. Thanksgiving break. Alex went home to Austin, his father's house near the Gigafactory, though home felt like too strong a word for a place where he'd spent maybe 30 total nights. His father had promised to be there for dinner. Actually promised, not just the vague "I'll try" that usually meant no. Alex arrived at 2 p.m. His father wasn't there. At 4 p.m., still no sign. At 6 p.m., a text. Dad, running late. Engineering issue at Boca Chica. Start without me. Be there by 8. Alex ate Thanksgiving dinner with the house staff, Maria, who cooked, and Tom, who handled security. They were nice people who tried to make conversation while Alex pushed turkey around his plate and checked his phone every 5 minutes. At 9:30 p.m., another text. Dad, so sorry, can't get away, critical system failure, tomorrow, breakfast. Alex didn't respond. He went to his room and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Through the window, he could see the Gigafactory in the distance, lit up like a small city. His father was probably there right now, solving whatever crisis had erupted, being brilliant, changing the world, saving humanity's future, just not present for humanity's present, not present for his son's present. Alex pulled out his laptop and started researching. Housing policy, homelessness statistics, vacant property laws. He read academic papers and city reports and advocacy organization websites. He fell down a rabbit hole of data, losing track of time, not even noticing when midnight passed. By 2 a.m., he'd created a detailed spreadsheet. Austin had 12,387 documented vacant housing units. The median vacancy period was 83 months. There were 3,472 people experiencing homelessness in Travis County. If you did the math, really simple math, the kind his father had taught him to love, you could house every homeless person 3 times over with the vacant units. The math didn't make sense. The world didn't make sense. His father had taught him to think in first principles, to break problems down to their fundamental truths and build solutions from there. Okay, first principle, humans need shelter. Second principle, shelter exists. Third principle, distribution is broken. Therefore, fix distribution. But how? December 2023. Alex started spending more time with Sophia, Marcus, and James. They became a tight group, meeting at coffee shops, studying together, attending protests and city council meetings. For the first time in his life, Alex felt like he had real friends, people who wanted to hang out with him, not his last name or his money. One evening at Mozart's Coffee on Lake Austin, Sophia laid out a plan. "We're thinking too small," she said. "Petitions and protests are fine, but they're not changing anything fast enough. Every night it gets colder, more people are sleeping outside, and empty luxury apartments sit there with the heat running so the pipes don't freeze." "What are you suggesting?" Marcus asked. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying, what if someone highlighted the absurdity? What if someone made it impossible to ignore?" James leaned forward. "You're talking about civil disobedience." "I'm talking about making people uncomfortable, making them see what they're choosing not to see." Alex listened, his heart beating faster. "You mean like occupying empty buildings?" Sophia looked at him directly. "I mean like using empty buildings for their intended purpose, putting homeless people in empty homes, even if just for one night, even if we get in trouble, because maybe the trouble would be worth it if it started a conversation." "That's breaking and entering," Marcus said. "That's serious." "So is freezing to death on the street," Sophia shot back. "I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying someone should. Someone needs to make this real." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the boats on Lake Austin, lights reflecting on the dark water. Finally, Alex said, "I'm in." Everyone looked at him. "If we do this," he continued, "I'm in. My father taught me to think in first principles and take action when the math says something's wrong. Well, the math says this is wrong." "Alex," James said carefully, "you know what would happen if you got caught? Who you are. This would be international news." "Maybe that's the point," Alex said. "Maybe it needs to be." Sophia smiled, not a happy smile but a determined one. "Then we do this right, we plan it carefully. We make sure we're actually helping people, not just making a statement, and we accept whatever consequences come." Marcus pulled out his tablet. Okay, let's start planning. They spent the next 2 hours mapping out details. Which building, which night, how to get in, who to bring, safety protocols, everything thought through, nothing left to chance. At midnight, they left the coffee shop and walked to their cars. The December air was cold for Texas, 40 degrees maybe. Alex thought about people sleeping outside in this temperature. He thought about empty apartments with working heat. He pulled out his phone and tried calling his father one more time. Voicemail, as always. This time he left a message. Hey Dad, it's Alex. I've been thinking a lot about first principles lately, about what matters. I hope you're good. Love you. He hung up and got in his car, already knowing his father wouldn't call back, already knowing that when they next spoke, everything would be different. But that was okay. He'd made his choice. Now he just had to live with it. Present day, March 15, 2024, 3:45 a.m. Elon sat across from Sergeant Rodriguez in the sterile interview room, her words hanging in the air like smoke. It's not what you think. He'd heard variations of that phrase 1,000 times in business. Usually it meant the situation was worse than expected. A production delay, a lawsuit, a design failure, but this wasn't business, this was his son. Then tell me what it is, Elon said, his voice harder than he intended. Before Rodriguez could answer, her radio crackled. Sergeant, we've got media outside. 2 vans, TMZ and local news. Elon closed his eyes, of course. Someone had tipped them off. Someone always did. Rodriguez spoke into her radio. Keep them at the perimeter, no statements. She looked back at Elon. Mr. Musk, I can't tell you everything right now. There are other parties involved, other families to notify. But I can tell you this. Your son wasn't doing what you probably think he was doing, and you'll understand more when you see him. But I wanted to warn you first, because this is going to get complicated very fast. Can I see him now? She nodded slowly. Yes, but Mr. Musk, whatever he tells you in there, whatever you see, just listen first. Don't react, just listen. Elon stood, his patience wearing thin. I've been listening my whole life, Sergeant, to engineers, investors, critics, everyone. I can listen to my own son. She led him back down the hallway to a different room. Through a small window in the door, Elon could see Alex sitting at a metal table, his head in his hands. He looked small, young, nothing like the defiant teenager who'd stopped calling him back. You'll have 20 minutes, Rodriguez said, unlocking the door. We'll be monitoring, but you'll have privacy to talk. Elon stepped inside. Alex looked up, and for a moment, father and son just stared at each other. Alex's eyes were red from crying or lack of sleep. Elon couldn't tell. There was a scratch on his cheek. His shirt was dirty. Dad, Alex said quietly. Elon sat down across from him, separated by 3 feet of metal table that felt like 3 miles. Are you hurt? No. Did they? Were you mistreated? No, they've been fine. Alex's voice was flat, exhausted. You didn't have to come. The words stung more than Elon expected. You're my son. Of course I came. Right, because of the headlines. Because of what this does to Tesla's stock. Elon felt anger flash through him, hot and immediate. Is that really what you think, that I'm here for stock prices? Aren't you? Alex met his eyes finally, and there was something broken in his gaze. When's the last time you showed up for something that didn't involve a crisis or a camera? Elon opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, because Alex was right. He'd missed birthdays, school events, casual dinners, always a reason, always something more urgent, but he'd made it to product launches, board meetings, press conferences. I'm here now, Elon said, his voice softer. Tell me what happened. Alex laughed, bitter, empty. You won't understand. Try me. For a long moment, Alex said nothing. Then slowly he started talking. There's this building downtown, the Skyline Residences, luxury apartments, $4,500 a month for a 1-bedroom. They finished construction 6 months ago. Know how many units are occupied? Less than half. Know why? Because the developer is keeping them empty on purpose. It's more profitable to keep prices high and units vacant than to lower rent and fill them all. Elon frowned. That's just market economics. Is it? Because 3 blocks from those empty apartments, there are people sleeping in 40-degree weather. I met them, Dad, talked to them, veterans, families, kids my age, and I kept thinking about what you taught me, first principles thinking. Break it down to what's real and what's just noise. Well, here's what's real. People need shelter, shelter exists, but the system won't connect them. That's not economics, that's a choice. So what did you do? Elon asked, though he was starting to guess. We gave them shelter for one night. Me and 3 friends, we got into 5 vacant units and brought in 7 people who were sleeping outside. We gave them beds, food, warmth, basic human dignity. Alex's voice cracked slightly. And now I'm in jail for it. Elon sat back, processing. His son hadn't been out partying, hadn't been vandalizing or stealing. He'd been trying to solve a problem, using first principles thinking, exactly like Elon had taught him, and it had landed him in handcuffs. Alex, Elon said carefully, I understand what you were trying to do, but you broke the law, you trespassed. You. I know what I did. Alex's voice rose, desperate. You think I don't know, but what was I supposed to do? Write another petition that gets ignored. Attend another city council meeting where rich developers lie about affordable housing. I did the math, Dad. Your math. The kind you taught me. And the math said people were suffering when they didn't have to be. So I acted. By breaking into someone else's property. Empty property, property being hoarded while people freeze. Alex stood up, agitated. You sent a car into space for fun. You bought Twitter to make a point. You break rules all the time when you think you're right. But when I do it, when I try to actually help people instead of just talking about it, suddenly rules matter. The comparison hit Elon like a slap. He thought about all the times he'd pushed boundaries, ignored experts, broken conventions. When did I become the person defending the rules? He wondered. Sit down, Elon said quietly. Alex remained standing. Why? So you can tell me how disappointed you are, how I've embarrassed the family, how I should have thought about Tesla's image before I. Sit down. Something in Elon's tone made Alex pause. He sat. Elon leaned forward. I'm not disappointed, I'm terrified. Alex blinked. What? Do you understand what you've done? Not the breaking in, I don't care about that, but you've put a target on yourself. Your name, your face, your life, it's all about to become public property. Every news outlet will run your story. Some will call you a hero. Most will call you a spoiled rich kid playing activist. Your privacy is gone. Your normal life is gone, and I can't protect you from that. I don't want your protection. Well, you have it anyway, because you're my son, and that's what fathers do, even when their sons don't want them to. Elon's voice roughened. Even when fathers have done a terrible job showing up, even when they've been so focused on saving humanity's future that they forgot about their son's present. Alex stared at him, surprised. You're right, Elon continued. About all of it, I haven't been there. I've missed everything that mattered. I told myself it was because I was working on important things, climate change, space exploration, existential risks. But the truth is I was running from the hard stuff, the personal stuff, because I can fix a rocket, but I don't know how to fix a relationship with my own kid. The room fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. Dad, Alex said softly, I wasn't trying to hurt you or embarrass you. I was trying to matter, to do something real. I know, and you did. You helped 7 people have a warm place to sleep. That's more than most people do in a lifetime. Elon paused. But you also scared the hell out of me. When that sergeant called when she said you'd been arrested, all I could think was I've lost him, not to jail, to distance, to all the years I wasn't there. Alex's eyes filled with tears. You haven't lost me. Haven't I? When's the last time we really talked? When's the last time I knew what you were thinking, what you cared about, what kept you up at night? You've been busy. That's not an excuse. That's never been an excuse. Elon rubbed his face, suddenly feeling every hour of sleep he'd missed over the past decade. My father and I barely spoke for years. I swore I'd be different. And here I am, sitting across from my son in a jail, realizing I've become exactly what I ran from. A knock on the door interrupted them. Sergeant Rodriguez poked her head in. Mr. Musk, there's been a development. The property owner's lawyer is here. They're deciding whether to press full charges or offer a deal. You might want to call your legal team. Elon nodded, then looked back at Alex. We're going to get through this. Whatever comes next, we face it together, okay? Alex nodded, wiping his eyes. Elon stood to leave, then paused. Hey, Alex, That thing you did helping those people, it was illegal, probably stupid, definitely going to make my lawyers very rich. He allowed himself a small smile. But it wasn't wrong, you understand that, it wasn't wrong. For the first time since Elon had entered the room, Alex smiled back. Small, tired, but real. Elon left the interview room and walked back into the hallway where Rodriguez waited. "The media's growing outside," she said. "You're going to have to make a statement eventually." "Eventually," Elon agreed. "But first, I need to understand exactly what my son did. You said there was footage." Rodriguez hesitated. "Yes, security cameras caught everything." "Show me." She led him to a small office with computer monitors showing security feeds. She pulled up saved footage from the previous night, timestamp 9:47 p.m. "This is from the Skyline residences," she explained, clicking play. On screen, Elon watched 4 figures approach a service entrance. His son, 3 others. They moved with purpose, not sneaking but walking like they belonged there. One of them, a tall kid with glasses, typed something into a keypad. The door opened. Footage switched to an interior hallway. The 4 students carried bags, duffel bags full of supplies. Then over the next hour, they made multiple trips, each time bringing someone new into the building. Older people, tired people, people carrying plastic bags with their possessions. Elon watched his son leading a veteran with a limp up to a 5th-floor unit. Watched him carefully explain something, gesturing around the apartment. Watched the veteran's face transform from suspicion to disbelief to tears. "That's Robert Chen," Rodriguez said quietly. "2 tour in Afghanistan, homeless for 14 months. The footage continued. Alex and his friends setting up sleeping bags, distributing food from grocery bags, making sure everyone had towels and toiletries. One of them, a girl with curly hair, talking intently with each person they brought in, writing things down in a notebook. "That's Sofia Martinez," Rodriguez said. "She's pre-law, smart kid. She documented everything, names, stories, proof of need. They weren't just making a statement, they were building a case." Elon watched his son work. Efficient, thoughtful, caring. When had Alex learned to be so capable? When had he grown up? The footage jumped ahead. Timestamp 11:32 p.m. Security guards discovering them. The students not running, not fighting, just standing calmly explaining what they'd done. Letting themselves be handcuffed without resistance. Rodriguez paused the video. "They knew they'd get caught. They planned for it. Your son gave a statement on camera. Want to hear it?" Elon nodded. She played an audio file. Alex's voice, tired but steady. "My name is Alex Musk. I'm 18 years old and tonight I broke the law. I trespassed into the Skyline residences with 3 friends. We accessed 5 vacant units and provided temporary shelter to 7 individuals experiencing homelessness. We didn't damage anything. We didn't steal anything. We just gave people a warm place to sleep on a cold night. I know this is illegal. I accept whatever consequences come, but I want people to know why we did it. This building has 217 finished units. Only 94 are occupied. Meanwhile, 3 blocks away, people are sleeping under bridges. That's not a housing shortage. That's a moral failure. And I refuse to pretend it's normal." The audio ended. Elon stood in the quiet office, staring at the paused video. His son's face frozen on screen, chin up, defiant, afraid, and somehow more certain of himself than Elon had seen in years. Rodriguez watched him carefully. The developer wants to prosecute fully, make an example, but the media coverage is going to be significant. This isn't just some kid spray painting buildings. This is a coordinated act of civil disobedience with a clear moral argument. And given who you are, given your platforms. She trailed off, but Elon understood. This would become national news, maybe international. His son had just started a conversation about homelessness, housing, and inequality, whether he'd meant to or not. "I need to make some calls," Elon said. "Of course, you can use this office. I'll give you privacy." Rodriguez left, closing the door behind her. Elon pulled out his phone. His notifications were exploding, news alerts, text messages, missed calls. The world was waking up to the story. Elon Musk's son arrested in housing protest. Tech billionaire's heir charged with breaking and entering. The story was already being written, the narrative already being shaped, but they didn't have all the facts yet. They didn't know why. They didn't know about Robert Chen or the 217 empty apartments or the math that didn't add up. Elon looked at his phone, thinking about what to do next. He could call his lawyers, his PR team. The board, do damage control, or he could do something else entirely. His finger hovered over Twitter. One post could change everything, could take control of the narrative, could either save his son or make everything worse. What would Alex want? No, wrong question. What was right? Elon thought about first principles, about the math that didn't add up, about 7 people sleeping warm instead of cold, about his son sitting in a jail cell believing his father cared more about stock prices than people, about the chance to finally show up for something that mattered. He started typing. 4:30 a.m. Travis County Jail. Elon's thumb hovered over the post button. The tweet was written, ready to send, but something made him stop. Not yet. First, he needed to see his son again, really see him, not through the lens of panic or fear or damage control, but as a father trying to understand who his child had become. He deleted the draft and put his phone away. Sergeant Rodriguez appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Musk, we've processed the paperwork for bail. $50,000, you can take him home once it's paid." "What about the charges?" "That's up to the district attorney and the property owner. For now, your son and his friends will be released on bail with a court date set for next week. But I'll be honest, the developer's lawyers are pushing hard. They want this prosecuted to the fullest extent." Elon nodded. "Can I see Alex again before we leave?" "Of course, same room as before." 5 minutes later, Elon sat across from his son again. Alex looked even more exhausted now, the adrenaline wearing off, reality setting in. "Bail's posted," Elon said. "You can come home." "Home?" Alex repeated like the word was foreign. "Which home?" "Austin, California. One of the other houses I've barely lived in." Elon absorbed the bitterness without flinching. "My house here in Austin, unless you'd rather go back to your dorm." "I'm probably expelled." "You're not expelled. UT won't touch this until after the legal process." Elon leaned forward. "Alex, I need you to understand something. What happens next, the media storm, the legal battle, all of it, it's going to be hard. People will say terrible things about you, about us. Some will defend you, others will crucify you. Are you prepared for that?" Alex met his eyes. "Are you prepared for that? For your son being called a criminal on every news channel?" "I don't care what they call you. I care that you're okay." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You're 18 years old, you've been arrested, and your life is about to become a circus." Elon's voice softened. "And part of that is my fault, because I made you famous before you could choose it, because my choices became your burden." Alex looked away. "I knew what I was getting into. Sophia warned me, said that being your son would make this bigger, would put a spotlight on everything. But I did it anyway because," he trailed off. "Because why?" "Because I wanted to matter for something other than being Elon Musk's son." Alex's voice cracked. "My whole life, that's all I've been. The heir. The kid with the famous dad. Every friend who got close, I wondered, do they like me or my last name? Every teacher who praised my work, was it actually good or were they just sucking up? I wanted to do something that was mine, something that mattered." Elon felt something break open in his chest. "You've always mattered, Alex, not because of me, despite me." "That's not how it feels." They sat in silence for a moment. Through the walls, Elon could hear voices, phones ringing, the machinery of the justice system grinding on. "Tell me about them," Elon said finally. "Your friends, the ones who did this with you." Alex's face changed, softening. "Sophia's amazing. She's the one who really opened my eyes to all this. She's from El Paso, first-generation college student. Her dad's a construction worker, her mom cleans houses. She's on scholarship, works 2 jobs, and still finds time to organize protests and run the Environmental Action Group. She's going to change the world." "She sounds like it." "Marcus is a genius programmer, like legitimately brilliant. He built the whole mapping system we use to document vacant properties versus homeless populations. He could probably work at Tesla or SpaceX tomorrow if he wanted, but he wants to use his skills for social good. And James," Alex smiled slightly. "James wants to be a social worker. He volunteers at homeless shelters every weekend. He's the one who knows all the people we helped last night. He introduced us to Robert and Diana and the others, made sure we weren't just using them to make a point." Elon listened, hearing the respect in his son's voice. These weren't just friends. They were people who'd helped Alex find purpose. I want to meet them, Elon said. Alex looked surprised. Why? Because they're important to you, and because they were willing to get arrested alongside you. That means something. They're probably terrified. Their families aren't like ours. They can't just post bail and hire expensive lawyers. Sophia's parents are probably losing their minds. Marcus's mom is a single mother. She can't afford any of this. Then we'll help them, Elon said simply. Bail, lawyers, whatever they need. They went down with you. We'll make sure they come back up with you too. Alex stared at him. You do that. Alex, I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. If I can't use it to help your friends when they need it, what's the point? Elon paused. Besides, they were right. About the apartments, about the math. I've spent 20 years trying to solve humanity's big problems, climate, space travel, AI, but I've ignored the smaller problems, the ones happening right now in every city to real people. Maybe it's time I paid attention. A knock on the door interrupted them. Rodriguez again. Mr. Musk, the media situation outside is escalating. We've got 5 news vans now. You're going to need a plan for getting out of here. Elon stood. Let them wait. I'm not sneaking out the back door. Alex and I will leave through the front. Dad, Alex started. No hiding, no shame. You did what you thought was right. Stand by it. Elon extended his hand. Come on, let's go home. Alex hesitated, then took his father's hand and stood. For a moment, they just looked at each other, 2 people who'd been strangers living in the same family. Thank you, Alex said quietly, for coming, for not just handling this from a distance. I should have been closer long before this, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. They walked out of the interview room together. In the processing area, Elon saw 3 other young people waiting, 2 boys and a girl, Alex's friends. Sophia, Marcus, James, Alex called out. They turned, relief flooding their faces when they saw him. The girl, Sophia, had been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy. Alex, oh my God, are you okay? They wouldn't tell us anything. I'm fine, everyone, this is my dad. 3 pairs of eyes turned to Elon. He saw fear there and awe and uncertainty. Mr. Musk, Marcus said carefully, we're so sorry about all this. We never meant to. Don't apologize. Elon looked at each of them in turn. What you did took courage, it took conviction, and it took the kind of first principles thinking that most people never manage. He paused. It also took criminal trespassing, which was stupid and illegal and is going to cause all of us a massive headache, but we'll deal with that together. Sophia blinked. Together. My lawyers will represent all 4 of you. Your bail is covered, and whatever comes next, you're not facing it alone. Elon pulled out his phone. What are your parents' numbers? I should call them, explain what's happening, reassure them their kids aren't being abandoned in jail by some billionaire. For a moment, the 3 students just stared at him. Dude, James finally said to Alex, your dad is way cooler than you made him sound. Alex laughed, the first real laugh Elon had heard from him in months. Yeah, well, he's full of surprises. Over the next 20 minutes, Elon made calls. To Sophia's panicked parents in El Paso, speaking to them in his rusty Spanish, promising their daughter would be protected. To Marcus's mother, who was crying so hard she could barely speak. To James's father, a pastor who said, Mr. Musk, I taught my son to stand up for what's right. I just never thought it'd land him in jail. Reverend, Elon had replied, if more people taught their kids what you taught yours, we'd need fewer jails. By 5:30 a.m., all 4 students were processed and ready to leave. Elon gathered them in a waiting area. Okay, here's the situation. In about 3 minutes, we're walking out that door into a media circus. They're going to shout questions. They're going to want statements. You don't have to say anything. You can keep your heads down and walk to the cars. Or, Sophia asked, or you can speak, tell your story, explain why you did what you did. Elon looked at each of them. But if you speak, understand, there's no taking it back. Your words will be replayed forever. You'll be linked to this moment for the rest of your lives, so choose carefully. The 4 students exchanged glances. I want to speak, Sophia said firmly. Me too, Marcus added. James nodded. Same. They all looked at Alex. Yeah, Alex said, we should tell the truth, all of it. Elon felt something like pride swell in his chest. Okay then, remember, you don't owe them anything. Say what you want to say, then we leave. No follow-up questions, no debates, just the truth and we're done. They walked toward the exit. Through the glass doors, Elon could see the chaos, cameras, lights, reporters jockeying for position. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky pink and orange. Ready? Elon asked. No, Alex admitted. But let's do it anyway. Elon pushed open the doors. The morning air hit them first, cool and fresh. Then the shouting started. Alex, Alex, why did you do it? Mr. Musk, do you support your son's actions? Is this a publicity stunt? Will Tesla face backlash? What about the property damage? Elon raised his hand and somehow, miraculously, the crowd quieted. My son and his friends will make a brief statement, he said. Then we're leaving. No questions. He stepped aside, giving Alex the space. His son stepped forward into the lights, into the cameras, into the moment that would define him. Alex took a breath. My name is Alex Musk. Last night I broke the law. I trespassed into a private building with 3 friends. We brought 7 homeless individuals inside and gave them shelter for the night. We knew it was illegal. We did it anyway. The reporters erupted with questions, but Alex kept talking, his voice getting stronger. 3 blocks from where we are standing, there are people sleeping on the street. And 3 blocks in the other direction, there are luxury apartments sitting empty. Not because there's a housing shortage, but because it's more profitable to keep prices high and units vacant. That's not economics. That's not business. That's a choice we're making as a society, and I refuse to accept that choice. Sophia stepped forward, joining him. My name is Sophia Martinez. I'm studying environmental justice. Last night, we didn't just break into a building. We broke through the invisible wall that separates the people who have everything from the people who have nothing. We made that wall visible. We made people see it. Marcus was next. Marcus Chen, computer science major. I mapped every vacant property in downtown Austin. I documented every person sleeping outside. The data is clear. We have the resources to solve this. We're choosing not to. Finally, James Rodriguez, social work. I know the 7 people we helped last night. I know their names, their stories, their struggles. They're not statistics. They're humans. And they deserved one night of dignity. Whatever punishment we get, it was worth it. The 4 students stood together, unified, defiant. A reporter shouted, "Do you think you're above the law because of your father?" Alex didn't hesitate. No, I think the law is wrong. And when laws are unjust, people have a moral obligation to challenge them. That's not being above the law, that's being human. Elon watched his son and felt something shift inside him. This young man, brave, principled, flawed, wasn't just his child anymore. He was becoming who he was meant to be. That's all, Elon said, moving forward to stand with the students. We're done here. As they walked toward the waiting cars, cameras flashing, questions still flying, Alex leaned close to his father. Was that okay? He asked. What I said. Elon put his arm around his son's shoulders. It was perfect. And for the first time in years, maybe in forever, they walked together as a real father and son. Not because crisis demanded it, but because both of them chose it. The sun was fully up now, washing away the darkness, starting a new day, starting something new. 6:15 a.m., March 15, 2024. They drove in silence at first. Elon had insisted on driving his Tesla himself, with Alex in the passenger seat. The other 3 students followed in a separate car with one of Elon's security team members. The media vans tried to follow, but Elon's driver training from his early PayPal days, when he'd been paranoid about carjackings, came in handy. He lost them after 3 quick turns through residential Austin streets. Alex stared out the window as they passed the Texas state capitol, its dome gleaming in the early morning light. Where are we going? Somewhere we can actually talk. Not my house, too many people around. Not your dorm, media will camp there for days. Elon glanced at his son. You trust me? Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, Alex. That's something I should have taught you better. 20 minutes later, they pulled into SpaceX's small Austin office near the airport. The building was mostly empty at this hour, just a few engineers working night shifts on Starship simulations. Elon used his badge to let them into a conference room on the 3rd floor, one with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the runway. The other students arrived moments later. Sophia looked exhausted but alert. Marcus kept checking his phone nervously. James seemed the calmest, like getting arrested was just another Tuesday. "Sit," Elon said, gesturing to the conference table. "We need to talk strategy." "Strategy?" Sophia asked. "You just became the face of a national conversation about homelessness and housing inequality, whether you wanted that or not." Elon pulled up a chair. "By noon, you'll be trending on every social media platform. By tonight, you'll be on the news. Tomorrow, politicians will be using you as examples, either to praise or condemn. You need to understand what you've started." "We knew it would be big," Marcus said quietly. "That's why we documented everything. We wanted people to pay attention." "Well, congratulations, you got your wish." Elon pulled out his phone and opened Twitter. "It's already begun. #empty rooms protest is trending. There are 3,000 tweets in the last hour alone. Some support you, others want you prosecuted to the fullest extent, and everyone is talking about the math." He showed them his screen, tweet after tweet. "Rich kid plays activist while real people suffer. Performative nonsense." Actually inspired by these students, they saw a problem and acted. That's courage. Elon Musk's son arrested for helping homeless people. Let that sink in. Breaking and entering is still a crime regardless of motivation. Lock them up. Alex read the tweets, his face pale. "It's already out of control." "Not out of control," Elon corrected. "Just big, there's a difference." He set down his phone. "Here's what's going to happen next. The district attorney will feel pressure to prosecute because the property owner has money and influence. But they'll also feel pressure to go easy because public opinion is divided and you're not exactly hardened criminals. My guess, they'll offer a plea deal. Community service, probation, maybe a fine." "What if we don't take the deal?" Sophia asked. "Then you go to trial, and trials are expensive, time-consuming, and unpredictable. You could win, you could lose. Either way, it'll dominate your life for months." Elon looked at each of them. "But that's not the most important decision you need to make right now." "What is?" James asked. "What you do with the platform you've just been given." Elon stood, pacing to the windows. Outside, a plane was taking off, climbing into the pink dawn sky. "You wanted to start a conversation. Well, you did. Now you need to decide, do you let that conversation happen to you, or do you shape it?" The students exchanged confused glances. Elon turned back to them. "I've spent my entire career controlling narratives, sometimes successfully, often not. But I've learned one thing: silence is always interpreted as either guilt or indifference. If you say nothing, others will tell your story for you, and they won't tell it right." "So what do we do?" Marcus asked. "You tell it yourself, completely, with evidence." Elon pulled out his phone again. "Sergeant Rodriguez showed me the security footage from last night. Everything you did, start to finish. It's powerful stuff. It shows you weren't vandalizing or partying. It shows you bringing people inside, setting up beds, distributing food. It shows care and planning and genuine compassion." Alex sat forward. "Can we get that footage?" "It's evidence in a criminal case. Officially, no." Elon allowed himself a slight smile. "But I'm friendly with the Travis County DA, and I think we can convince her that releasing certain portions of that footage serves the public interest, especially if it prevents a false narrative from taking hold." "You do that?" Sophia asked, disbelief in her voice. "Use your connections to help us." "These aren't just my connections. This is how the system works. And yes, normally that's unfair. Most people don't have access to the DA. But you're stuck with that advantage whether you want it or not because Alex is my son. So we might as well use it to tell the truth." Elon sat back down. "But I need to know, are you prepared for what comes next? Because once that footage is public, once your story is out there, there's no going back to normal." The four students looked at each other, having a silent conversation with their eyes. Finally, Alex spoke. "We crossed that line when we opened those apartment doors. We knew there was no going back then. So yeah, we're prepared. We tell the truth, all of it." Elon nodded slowly, feeling that strange swell of pride again. "Okay, then we do this right. We don't just release footage. We release context, data, the full picture." He looked at Marcus. "You said you mapped the vacant properties." Yeah, I have a complete database. Addresses, vacancy duration, rental prices, owner information, everything. And James, you know the people you helped. I know their stories, yes. With their permission, I could share them. Real names, real struggles, not just statistics. Good, because that's what changes minds, not abstract arguments, but real human faces. Elon turned to Sophia. And you're the one who organized this. You're pre-law. You understand systems and how to challenge them. You're the voice that ties it all together. Sophia straightened. What exactly are you suggesting, Mr. Musk? I'm suggesting we don't just defend what you did. We go on offense. We make the case that what happened last night wasn't a crime, it was a wake-up call. We show the data Marcus collected. We share the stories James knows. We let people see the footage. And we ask one simple question. In a society with more empty homes than homeless people, who's really committing the crime? The room fell silent. Marcus started, then stopped. That's actually brilliant. It's also risky, James added. We're basically admitting guilt and saying we do it again. You already admitted guilt outside the jail, Elon pointed out. But you framed it as civil disobedience, as moral necessity. That's a powerful argument if we back it up with facts. He leaned forward. Look, I can't guarantee this works. The DA might still prosecute fully. The judge might not care about your reasoning. But at minimum, we control the narrative. We make sure the world knows exactly why you did what you did. Alex looked at his friends, then back at his father. When do we start? Elon checked his watch. Now, we have maybe 6 hours before the news cycle fully spins up. We need to move fast. He stood and walked to a whiteboard on the wall, grabbing a marker. Here's the plan. For the next hour, they strategized like a military operation. Elon drew diagrams, assigned tasks, made phone calls. He contacted the DA's office, his media team, even a documentary filmmaker he knew who specialized in social justice issues. Marcus worked on his laptop, cleaning up his database, preparing visualizations of the vacant property data. Sophia drafted a statement explaining their reasoning, her pre-law training evident in every careful word choice. James made calls to the 7 people they'd helped, asking permission to share their stories, explaining what was happening. And Alex watched his father work with an intensity he'd never seen before. Not the distracted multitasking of someone trying to run 3 companies at once, but focused, present attention. His father was actually here, fully here. At one point, Alex pulled him aside while the others were working. Dad, why are you doing all this? Elon looked at him surprised. You're my son, why wouldn't I? Because 12 hours ago, you were in Boca Chica working on Starship. You had a launch scheduled. You have board meetings, investor calls, a million things more important than. Nothing is more important than this, Elon interrupted. Then I've been telling myself for years that my work mattered more because it affected more people. Save humanity, colonize Mars, stop climate change, big important goals. But you know what? I can hire engineers to build rockets. I can hire executives to run companies. But I can't hire someone to be your father. That's my job, only mine. And I've been failing at it. Alex felt his throat tighten. You haven't been failing. Yes, I have. I've been so focused on the future, on making sure humanity survives the next 100 years, that I forgot about the present, about making sure my own son survives the next day, the next week, with his mental health intact and his sense of self-worth solid. Elon put his hand on Alex's shoulder. You broke into a building to help people. You risked everything to do what you thought was right. That didn't come from nowhere, Alex. That came from values someone taught you. And I'd like to think some of that came from me, even if I haven't been around to reinforce it. It did, Alex said quietly. The first principles thinking, the idea that if the math doesn't work, the system is broken, that came from you. Then let me help you see it through. Let me actually be here for the hard part, not just the easy celebrations. They stood there for a moment, father and son, in a SpaceX conference room as the sun rose higher outside. Mr. Musk, Sophia called from the table. The DA's office called back. They're willing to meet with us this afternoon. And they said they'd consider releasing portions of the security footage if it serves justice. Elon smiled. Good, that's very good. He turned back to Alex. You ready for this? Because once we show that footage, once people see what you actually did, everything changes. What do you mean? I mean, some people will call you heroes, others will call you criminals, but no one will forget your names. Elon's expression turned serious. This moment right here, right now, it's going to define you for a long time, maybe forever. So I need to know, do you stand by what you did, completely? Because if you have any doubts, any regrets, we need to know now before we go public. Alex didn't hesitate. I stand by it, I'd do it again. Even knowing the consequences. Especially knowing the consequences. Because 7 people slept warm last night who wouldn't have otherwise. And if the cost of that is my reputation, my privacy, even my freedom, then yeah, I stand by it. Elon felt something crack inside his chest, some wall he'd built years ago, some defense against feeling too much. His son was braver than he'd ever been, more principled, more willing to sacrifice for others. When did he grow up? When did he become this person? Okay, Elon said, his voice rough. Then let's show the world what you did, all of it, no apologies. He walked back to the whiteboard and drew a final diagram. Here's how we release the footage. We don't just dump it online, we tell a story. We start with Marcus's data, show the scale of the problem. Then James's interviews with the people you helped, make it personal. Then the footage itself, show what you actually did. Finally, your statements, explain why it mattered. We do it all at once, coordinated, so the full picture lands before anyone can spin it. When? Marcus asked. Elon checked his watch again. We have the DA meeting at 2 p.m. We'll negotiate the release of the footage then. Assuming we get it, we go public at 6 p.m., right in time for evening news. Maximum impact. And if the DA doesn't give us the footage, Sophia asked, then we release everything else and let people demand to see what we saw. Public pressure works both ways. Elon capped the marker. But she'll give it to us, because she's smart enough to know this story is coming out one way or another. Better to be part of shaping it than fighting it. James looked up from his phone. Robert Chen says he'll do an interview, so will Diana and 2 others. They want people to know what last night meant to them. Perfect, record those interviews. Keep them short, 2 minutes each max. People's attention spans are. Elon trailed off, seeing their expressions. What? Nothing, Alex said, smiling slightly. It's just, you're really good at this. The strategy, the planning, I've never seen you like this. I've been doing this for 20 years, Alex. Controlling narratives, managing crises, fighting battles in the court of public opinion. The only difference is this time it actually matters. Elon set down the marker. This time, it's not about stock prices or product launches. It's about something real, someone real. He looked at his son and Alex looked back, and for a moment no words were needed. Then Sophia's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her face went pale. What? Alex asked. She lowered the phone. That was my mom. There are reporters outside our house in El Paso. They're interviewing neighbors about me, asking about my family, digging into our lives. Her voice shook. They found out my dad has an expired visa. If this gets too big, if immigration gets involved. The fear in her eyes was real, visceral. Elon moved immediately. Give me your mom's number. I'll call her right now. I know immigration lawyers, the best ones. If your father needs help with his status, we'll handle it. Today. Mr. Musk, we can't afford. You're not paying for it. Consider it done. Elon was already dialing. And I'll have my security team send someone to your house in El Paso. Keep the reporters back. Give your family space. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? You don't even know us. Because my son trusts you. Because you stood with him when it mattered. And because, Elon paused, finding the words, because I have more resources than any one person needs, and if I can't use them to help when people are vulnerable, then what's the point of having them? He stepped into the hallway to make the call, leaving the 4 students alone in the conference room. Alex looked at his friends. Is this real? Is my dad actually here, actually helping, or am I hallucinating from exhaustion? It's real, Marcus said, still staring at his laptop screen in disbelief. Your dad is kind of amazing. He has his moments, Alex admitted. I've never seen him like this. Present, focused, actually giving a damn about something other than Mars or electric cars. Maybe he always gave a damn, James said thoughtfully. Maybe he just didn't know how to show it until now. Through the window, they could see Elon pacing in the hallway, phone to his ear, gesturing emphatically. Even from a distance, they could see the intensity in his body language. "Whatever happens next," Sophia said quietly, "we started something, didn't we? Something bigger than just last night." "Yeah," Alex agreed. "We did. Question is, are we ready for what we started?" None of them had an answer to that. Outside, the sun continued to rise over Austin, washing away the shadows, illuminating everything. The city was waking up, and so was the story. A story about 7 people who slept warm, about 4 students who broke the law to follow their conscience, about a father who finally showed up, and about a question that wouldn't go away. In a world of empty rooms and cold streets, what are we willing to do to make the math add up? 9:00 a.m. noon. Elon returned to the conference room 40 minutes later. His expression was tight, controlled, the look he wore when closing difficult deals. "Sophia, your father's immigration situation is being handled. I've got a team from Miller and Associates. They're the best immigration lawyers in Texas, flying to El Paso this afternoon. They'll meet with your parents, review everything, and start the process to regularize his status. It'll take time, but he's not in immediate danger." Sophia wiped her eyes. "Mr. Musk, I don't know how to thank you." "Thank me by staying strong. The next 24 hours are going to test all of you." He pulled up a chair. "I just got off the phone with my head of PR. Tesla's stock is down 28% on the news. My board is panicking. 3 different executives have texted asking me to distance myself from this situation. And TMZ is offering $50,000 for anyone who can provide exclusive inside information about Alex." Marcus whistled low. "50,000, that's insane." "That's nothing. By this afternoon, it'll probably be higher." Elon looked at each of them. "Which means everyone you know, roommates, classmates, ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, that random person you sat next to in chemistry, they're all being contacted right now. Offered money for stories, photos, text messages, anything. Your privacy is gone. Your past is going to be dissected. People will find every mistake you've ever made and amplify it." "Jesus," James muttered. "But here's the thing, if you control your own narrative, if you tell your story first and tell it completely, those other stories matter less. They become footnotes instead of headlines." Elon stood. "So here's what we're doing. Alex, you're coming with me. We're going to get breakfast and have a real conversation. One we should have had months ago. The rest of you go home, get some sleep, talk to your families. We meet back here at 1 p.m. to prepare for the DA meeting. Questions?" "Just one," Alex said. "Where are we going for breakfast?" Elon smiled slightly. "You'll see." 20 minutes later, Elon and Alex sat in a booth at Magnolia Cafe on South Congress, a 24-hour diner that had been an Austin institution since 1988. It was the kind of place where techies and construction workers and musicians all ate side by side, nobody caring who anyone was. Or at least, usually nobody cared. Today, several people recognized Elon, phones coming out, whispers spreading. But the staff, bless them, maintained a respectful distance just like they would for anyone else. Alex ordered the gingerbread pancakes. Elon got black coffee and scrambled eggs. For a few minutes they just sat there, exhausted, watching the morning crowd filter in and out. "When's the last time we did this?" Alex asked finally. "Just sat and had breakfast together." Elon thought back, genuinely trying to remember. "Your 13th birthday. We went to that place in Palo Alto. You ordered the chocolate chip pancakes." "I can't believe you remember that." "I remember more than you think. I'm just not good at showing it." Elon took a sip of coffee. "Your mom, your other parent, used to say I had a perfect memory for engineering specifications and a terrible memory for emotional moments. Turns out she was half right. I remember the moments. I just wasn't there for enough of them." The pancakes arrived, tall and steaming. Alex poured syrup slowly, methodically. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why now? Why are you suddenly here, suddenly present, suddenly caring about all this? Is it just because I got arrested? Because if that's what it takes to get your attention?" "No," Elon cut him off firmly. "It's not about the arrest. Or it is, but not the way you think. Alex, I've been running for 20 years. Running toward the future because I was terrified of the present. Terrified I'd fail as a father the same way my father failed me. And you know what's funny? By running from that fear, I guaranteed it would come true. Alex set down his fork. What happened with your dad? You never talk about it. Elon was quiet for a long moment, staring into his coffee like it held answers. My father, he was brilliant. Engineer, pilot, consultant. He could solve any technical problem you gave him, but he was also cold, distant. He had expectations, massive expectations, and when you didn't meet them, he let you know. Not with anger, with disappointment, which was somehow worse. Sounds familiar, Alex said quietly. The words hit Elon like a physical blow. Have I made you feel that way? Sometimes. Like nothing I do is ever quite enough because you're always thinking 3 steps ahead, always focused on the next big thing. Alex picked at his pancakes. I got straight A's last semester. You know what you said when I told you. Elon tried to remember, couldn't. You said, that's good, keep it up, and then immediately started talking about some engineering problem at SpaceX 5 seconds. That's how long my achievement held your attention. Alex, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. I'm trying to explain why last night happened. Why I did something so extreme. Because I needed to matter for something. And if I couldn't matter to you, maybe I could matter to those 7 people sleeping under bridges. Elon felt his chest constrict. When had he become his father? When had his son started measuring his worth by whether he could capture Elon's attention? You've always mattered to me, Elon said, his voice rough. I know I haven't shown it. I know my actions say otherwise. But Alex, every decision I've made moving to Austin, working on climate change, trying to make humanity multiplanetary, part of that has been about building a better world for you and your siblings. I got so focused on the building part that I forgot about the being present part. You can't engineer relationships, Dad. They don't work like rockets. You can't solve them with first principles and iterative design. I'm learning that. Elon managed a weak smile. Slowly, painfully, but I'm learning. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Around them, the diner buzzed with morning activity, servers calling out orders, dishes clattering, the espresso machine hissing. Tell me about the moment, Elon said finally. The moment you decided to do it, to break into that building. Alex set down his fork, thinking. It was 3 weeks ago. James and I were volunteering at the Arch, that's the homeless shelter downtown. It was at capacity, people getting turned away into a freezing night. This one guy, maybe 50 years old, he accepted it. Like he'd been turned away so many times that he didn't even have the energy to be angry anymore. He just nodded, pulled his coat tighter and walked back out into the cold. Robert Chen, Elon said, remembering the name from the police report. Yeah, Robert, James knew him, said he was a veteran, 2 tours in Afghanistan, came home, couldn't find work, couldn't afford rent, ended up on the streets. And I just kept thinking this man served his country and his country won't give him a warm place to sleep. Alex's voice shook slightly. So I followed him, watched him walk to his spot under the Lamar Bridge. And you know what he did? He arranged cardboard boxes to break the wind. He laid out a sleeping bag that was more holes than fabric. And then he just went asleep, like it was normal. Elon listened, imagining it. I walked home to my dorm that night. Heated room, soft bed, more food than I could eat in the mini fridge. And I pulled up the data Marcus had collected, 12,000 vacant housing units in Austin. I looked at that number for 2 hours. Did the math over and over like maybe I'd made a mistake. But the math was right. We have the resources. We're just choosing not to use them. So you decided to choose differently, Elon said. Yeah, Sophia and I started planning. Marcus built the database, found the buildings with the most vacant units. James connected us with people who actually needed help. We weren't going to just grab random people off the street. We wanted to help specific individuals we knew, people we talked to, people we built relationships with. Alex looked directly at his father. We did it your way, Dad. First principles. Identified the problem, gathered data, designed a solution, executed it. The only difference was our solution happened to be illegal. Civil disobedience has a long history, Elon said thoughtfully. Gandhi, King, Mandela, they all broke laws they thought were unjust. Is that what you think we did? I think you exposed an injustice. Whether breaking into private property was the right way to do it, that's complicated. But the injustice itself, that's not complicated. That's just math, like you said, and the math doesn't work. A woman approached their table hesitantly. early 30s, wearing scrubs like she'd just gotten off a hospital shift. "Excuse me, Mr. Musk. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say what your son did last night. That took courage. My brother's been homeless for 2 years. I've watched the system fail him over and over. So thank you, Alex. Thank you for seeing people like my brother as actual humans." She walked away before either of them could respond. Alex stared after her, surprised. That was weird. "That's going to keep happening," Elon warned. "Some people will thank you, others will curse you. You've become a symbol whether you wanted to or not." "I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to help 7 people." "And you did, but you also started a conversation that's bigger than 7 people now. That's the thing about taking action. You can't always control where it leads." Elon finished his coffee. "Which brings me to something I need to tell you, about what I'm planning to do." Alex looked up. "What do you mean?" Elon pulled out his phone and showed Alex a draft tweet he'd been working on. "My son was arrested last night for giving shelter to homeless people in vacant luxury apartments. He broke the law. He also broke my heart open. I've spent 20 years trying to make humanity multiplanetary. He reminded me we need to be better humans here first." "You're going to post that?" Alex asked, shocked. "Along with a thread explaining the situation, the data, and a commitment to actually help solve this problem. Not just talk about it, actually do something." Elon pocketed his phone. "But I wanted to ask you first, because once I post that, once I publicly support what you did, there's no going back. Tesla will take heat, the board will be furious, investors might panic, it'll be a mess." "Then don't do it," Alex said immediately. "Dad, I don't want you to trash everything you've built because of me." "You're not trashing anything. I'm choosing to use my platform for something that matters." Elon leaned forward. "Alex, I have 180 million Twitter followers. If I can't use that to shine a light on a real problem, then what's the point? I've tweeted about Dogecoin and flamethrowers and stupid memes. Maybe it's time I tweeted about something real." "Your board will kill you." "Let them try. I've survived worse." Elon smiled, but his eyes were serious. "Besides, they need me more than I need them. That's the advantage of being irreplaceable. You get to do what's right occasionally." Alex laughed despite himself. "That's the most arrogant and inspiring thing you've ever said." "I contain multitudes." Elon signaled for the check. "So, do I have your permission to make this our fight instead of just yours?" Alex thought about it, really thought about it. "If you do this, everything changes for both of us." Everything already changed at 3:17 this morning when I got that phone call. Now we just decide how we respond to the change. "Okay," Alex said finally. "Post it, tell the truth, let's see what happens." Noon 6:00 p.m. They drove back to the SpaceX office where the others were waiting. Marcus had barely slept but had refined his data visualizations into something powerful, interactive maps showing vacant properties in red and homeless populations in blue. The overlap was impossible to ignore. James had recorded interviews with Robert, Diana, and 2 others. Each video was under 2 minutes, just faces and voices telling their stories. Robert talking about Afghanistan. Diana explaining how medical bills led to eviction. A 19-year-old named Tommy describing sleeping in his car while working full-time at Starbucks because he couldn't afford rent anywhere in Austin. Sophia had drafted a statement that was legally careful but morally clear. "We broke the law to follow our conscience. We accept the consequences. We don't regret our actions." At 1:00 p.m., they piled into 2 cars and drove to the Travis County District Attorney's office. DA Michelle Chen was a sharp woman in her 40s who'd built her reputation on criminal justice reform. She met them in a conference room that felt too much like the jail interrogation room they'd left that morning. "Mr. Musk," she said, shaking his hand. "I wish we were meeting under different circumstances." "So do I, but here we are." She looked at the 4 students. "I've reviewed your case, all of you, and I'll be honest, this is complicated. The property owner wants maximum prosecution. They're talking felony burglary, conspiracy, potentially even breaking and entering with intent. They want to make an example of you." "And what do you want?" Sophia asked, her pre-law training showing. "I want justice. which in this case means figuring out whether 4 first-time offenders who broke into an empty building to shelter homeless people in freezing weather should be treated the same as people who broke in to steal or vandalize. DA Chen sat down. I've seen the security footage, all of it, and I'm going to be honest, it doesn't look like a crime. It looks like a humanitarian act that happened to be illegal. So what are you suggesting? Elon asked. Misdemeanor trespassing, 200 hours community service each, specifically working with homeless services, 2 years probation, no jail time, no permanent felony records that would destroy their futures. She looked at each student. In exchange, you plead guilty, accept responsibility, and agree not to repeat the action. That's actually fair, Marcus said, surprised. I try to be. DA Chen pulled out a tablet. Now about the footage. Mr. Musk, your office requested access to release portions of it publicly. Normally, I'd say absolutely not, it's evidence in an ongoing case. But my job is to serve justice, and sometimes justice requires transparency. She showed them the tablet. I'm willing to release specific portions, the parts showing what you actually did, with the people you helped consenting to being shown. No audio from police interactions, nothing that compromises the investigation, just the core actions. Why are you helping us? James asked. Because I think the public deserves to see the truth before the media spins it into something it's not. And because, she paused, choosing her words carefully, because my sister was homeless for 6 months after a medical bankruptcy. I watched her sleep in a shelter while luxury apartments sat empty blocks away. So yeah, I have some sympathy for what you were trying to do, even if I can't legally condone how you did it. Elon nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty and your fairness. Don't thank me yet. The property owner is going to fight this. They'll pressure my office, maybe even file a civil suit against you personally. This isn't over. It never is, Elon said. They spent the next 2 hours negotiating details, signing paperwork, arranging for the footage transfer. By 3:30 p.m., they had everything they needed. By 4:00 p.m., they were back at the SpaceX office, assembling the full package: data, interviews, footage, statements. By 5:00 p.m., Elon was ready to post. He sat at the conference table, phone in hand, the tweet drafted and ready. Alex sat beside him. The others gathered around. Last chance to back out, Elon said. Once I post this, it's real, it's public, we're committed. Post it, Alex said firmly. Elon pressed send. The tweet went live at 5:47 p.m. CST. My son was arrested last night for giving shelter to homeless people in vacant luxury apartments. He broke the law. He also broke my heart open. I've spent 20 years trying to make humanity multiplanetary. He reminded me we need to be better humans here first. Thread 112. The thread continued, laying out everything. The data, the moral argument, the footage link, the interviews. 12 tweets, each one carefully crafted to tell the complete story. Within 30 seconds, the first retweet appeared. Within 5 minutes, it had gone viral. Within 30 minutes, it was trending worldwide. The notifications exploded. Likes, retweets, comments flooding in faster than the phone could display them. The counter climbed. 10,000 retweets, 50,000, 100,000, 500,000. News outlets picked it up immediately. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, BBC, everyone covering it. Elon Musk defends son's arrest. Tech billionaire supports homeless advocacy. The empty rooms protest, a national conversation. But it wasn't just news outlets. Regular people started sharing stories of their own experiences with homelessness. Others posted data from their own cities showing similar patterns, vacant properties numbering homeless populations everywhere. A hashtag emerged, empty rooms math. Within 2 hours, 4 other tech CEOs announced matching donations to homeless services. 2 city councils called emergency meetings to discuss vacant property policies. 3 major newspapers ran editorials. The students watched it all unfold, stunned into silence. This is insane, Marcus whispered, scrolling through his phone. This is what happens when truth meets platform, Elon said. When data meets story, when individual action becomes collective consciousness. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and grimaced. Tesla's board chair. I should take this. He stepped out and they could see him through the glass walls of the conference room, pacing, gesturing, clearly being yelled at. But his expression never changed. He was calm, certain, unmoved. 20 minutes later, he returned. "Well," Alex asked. "They demanded I delete the tweets. I declined. They threatened to remove me as CEO. I reminded them I own the majority of voting shares, so that won't work. They're currently scrambling to do damage control." Elon sat down, looking satisfied. "Tesla's stock is down 7% now, but the board will survive. The stock will recover, and will have actually done something that matters." "Was it worth it?" Sophia asked. "Ask me in a year," Elon said. "But right now, yeah, it was worth it." At 8:00 p.m., they ordered pizza. At 9:00 p.m., they were still monitoring the social media firestorm. At 10:00 p.m., Alex fell asleep on the conference room couch, exhausted. Elon sat watching his son sleep, thinking about everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. How a 3 a.m. phone call had shattered his comfortable distance. How his son's arrest had forced him to confront what actually mattered. How breaking the law had somehow led to breaking through years of emotional walls between them. His phone buzzed. A text from his ex-partner, Alex's other parent. "I saw what you posted. Thank you for being there for him. He needed you." Elon typed back, "I needed him too. I just didn't know it until now." He looked at the city lights through the window. Austin, spreading out below them, full of empty apartments and cold streets, problems and possibilities. Somewhere out there, Robert Chen was sleeping in a shelter bed instead of under a bridge because 4 kids had decided the math didn't work. Somewhere out there, people were having conversations they hadn't had yesterday about housing, inequality, and what society owes its most vulnerable members. And here in this conference room, a father sat watching his son sleep, finally present for what mattered. The 24 hours weren't over yet, but they'd already changed everything. March 16, 2024 dawn. Elon woke to his phone vibrating against the conference room table. He'd fallen asleep in the chair next to Alex's couch sometime around midnight. His neck ached, and early morning light was just beginning to filter through the windows. The screen showed 6:23 a.m. and 247 missed notifications. He sat up carefully, trying not to wake Alex, and scrolled through the messages. What he saw made him catch his breath. The tweet thread had exploded overnight. 42 million likes. 18 million retweets. It was trending in 47 countries, but it wasn't just the numbers, it was what was happening because of them. A text from Tim Cook at Apple. "What you did took guts. Apple will match your donation. $50 to Austin Homeless Services." An email from the mayor of Austin, Kirk Watson. "Mr. Musk, I'd like to meet with you and your son this week. We need to discuss housing policy reform." A voicemail from a producer at 60 Minutes. "We want to do a full segment. You, Alex, and the other students. Primetime slot." But mixed in with the support were the attacks. Harsh, personal, vicious. Typical billionaire thinking rules don't apply to his kid. Elon defends criminal activity. What message does this send? Rich people playing poverty games while destroying property values. And from several Tesla investors, "You've damaged shareholder value. This is unacceptable." Elon set down his phone and rubbed his face. Welcome to the consequences, he thought. This is what Alex has been living with his whole life, being judged not for who he is but for his last name. Alex stirred on the couch, blinking awake. What time is it? Early 6:30. Did the world end while we slept? Not yet, but it changed. Elon showed him the phone. Your international news now, all of you. Alex sat up, reading through the notifications with widening eyes. I don't even know what this is. This is what happens when you touch a nerve, when you say something people have been thinking but haven't said out loud. Elon stood, stretching his stiff back. The question now is what we do with it. The others began arriving by 7 a.m. Sophia looked like she hadn't slept at all, her eyes red and puffy. Marcus was quiet, subdued. James seemed energized, almost excited. My phone hasn't stopped, Sophia said. News requests, interview offers, people wanting to help, people calling us criminals. It's overwhelming. Mine too, Marcus added. And my mom is freaking out. She's proud but also terrified. She keeps asking if I'm going to be safe. Are we, James asked, looking at Elon, going to be safe? Because some of these messages are pretty threatening. Elon's expression hardened. I've assigned a security detail to each of you. They'll be discreet, but they'll be there. Anyone threatens you, we document it and report it. No one touches you, understood? Mr. Musk, we can't afford security, Sophia started. You're not paying for it. Consider it part of being dragged into my world whether you wanted to be or not. Elon pulled up chairs. Sit. We need to talk about what happens next. They gathered around the conference table as the Austin sun rose higher, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The DA's plea deal is still on the table, Elon began. Misdemeanor trespassing, community service, probation. That's the legal path forward. But now there's also a public path. Interview requests, speaking opportunities, a platform to keep this conversation going. You need to decide. Do you take the deal quietly and move on with your lives? Or do you use this moment to push for actual change? What do you think we should do? Alex asked. I think you should do whatever lets you sleep at night. This isn't about what I want or what's strategically optimal, it's about what you can live with. Elon looked at each of them. But I will say this, you've started something. People are paying attention. City councils are calling emergency meetings. Nonprofits are getting record donations. You have a chance to turn this moment into movement, but that comes with a cost, more scrutiny, more pressure. Less privacy, maybe for years. The students exchanged glances, that silent communication they'd developed. Finally, Sophia spoke. We didn't do this to hide afterward. We did it to make people see. So yeah, we should keep pushing. Do the interviews, tell the story, use whatever platform we've been given. I agree, James said. The 7 people we helped, they can't speak for themselves as easily. We can, we should. Marcus? Elon asked. Marcus nodded slowly. Yeah, I'm in, but I'm also scared. My mom, my family, I don't want them hurt by this. They won't be, I promise you that. Elon's voice was firm. Anyone goes after your families, they go through me first. And I'm a lot harder to intimidate than a bunch of internet trolls or aggressive reporters. What about you, Alex? Sophia asked. Alex looked at his father, then at his friends. 6 months ago, I felt invisible. Like nothing I did mattered because I'd always just be Elon Musk's son. Last night, 7 people slept warm because we acted. Today, millions of people are talking about housing and homelessness because we didn't stay silent. So yeah, I'm in. We keep going. Then it's decided, Elon said. He pulled out his tablet. I've already started getting calls. 60 Minutes wants a full segment. The Today Show wants you for Monday morning. CNN wants to do a town hall. We need to be strategic about which ones to accept. All of them, Sophia said firmly. Every single one. We flood the zone with truth before anyone can flood it with lies. Elon smiled. Spoken like someone who understands modern media. Okay, we'll do a press tour, but we do it smart. We stay on message. We stick to the facts. We tell the human stories. He started typing notes. Marcus, your data visualizations need to be idiot-proof. If a news anchor can't understand them in 30 seconds, simplify them. James, we need more interviews with the people you helped. Their voices need to be louder than ours. Sophia, you're our legal expert. You explain the civil disobedience argument, the history, the precedent. Alex. He paused, looking at his son. Alex, you tell the personal story, why you did it, what it meant, what you hope changes. You're the heart of this. Your voice matters most. Alex nodded, looking nervous but determined. Over the next 3 hours, they planned. Elon coordinated with his PR team, scheduling interviews, arranging transportation, preparing talking points. The students practiced answering tough questions, role-playing hostile interviewers. At 10 a.m., Elon's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted. I need to take this, he said, stepping into the hallway. Through the glass, they watched him answer, listened to his muffled voice. The conversation lasted 15 minutes, Elon's body language growing tenser with each passing moment. When he returned, his face was carefully neutral. That was the CEO of Skyline Development Group, the company that owns the building you broke into. And, Alex asked, they're dropping the push for felony charges. They're accepting the DA's plea deal. Elon sat down heavily. In exchange, they want a public meeting. You, me, them, the mayor, and the media. They want to announce a new affordable housing initiative. 50 units from their building will be set aside for formerly homeless individuals, subsidized rent, case management support. They're calling it the Empty Rooms Initiative. Stunned silence. Wait, Marcus said slowly. They're actually going to house people because of what we did. Because of the PR nightmare you created for them. Because every article about their building now mentions luxury apartments sitting empty while people freeze. They're turning a crisis into an opportunity. Elon's expression was hard to read. It's cynical. It's self-serving. It's also 50 people who'll have homes they wouldn't have had otherwise. So we won? James asked, disbelieving. You started something. Whether that's winning depends on what happens next. Elon pulled up an email on his tablet. They're not the only ones responding. I've gotten calls from developers in 7 cities. 2 are considering similar programs. 3 are threatening to sue me personally for encouraging property crimes. 1 wants to partner on a Tesla-funded housing initiative. It's chaos. Sophia leaned back, overwhelmed. This is really happening, like actually happening. This is what change looks like, Elon said. Messy, complicated, imperfect, but real. You proved something last night, that one action, one moment of courage can shift the entire conversation. Now we find out if conversation becomes action. Alex's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his face went pale. Dad, you should see this. He passed the phone to Elon, who read the screen and his jaw tightened. What is it? Sophia asked. Someone leaked Alex's personal information online, Elon said, his voice dangerously quiet. Home address, phone number, social security number, class schedule, everything. That's doxing, Marcus said. That's illegal. Illegal but common and dangerous. Elon was already dialing. Alex, you're not going back to your dorm. None of you are going home until we've secured your information and assessed the threat level. James, Sophia, Marcus, same for you. We're treating this as a credible safety concern. You really think someone would try to hurt us? James asked. I think when you challenge powerful interests and make international news, you become a target, and I'm not taking chances with your lives. Elon finished his call. Security team is en route. They'll sweep your dorms, secure your belongings, and move you to a safe location for the next few days. What safe location? Alex asked. My house. It's gated, monitored, secure. You'll stay there until this calms down. All 4 of us, Sophia said, living with Elon Musk. You got a better option. She thought about it. Not really, no. The absurdity of the situation hit them all at once. 4 college students who'd broken into a building to help homeless people were now being moved into a billionaire's mansion for their own protection. This is the weirdest timeline, Marcus muttered. Welcome to consequence, Elon said. It's not always what you expect. Afternoon, 2:00 p.m. The press conference was scheduled for 4 p.m. at Austin City Hall. The mayor wanted to announce the new housing initiative with Elon, Alex, and the Skyline Development CEO present. It was pure political theater, but Elon knew theater had value when it led to actual results. They spent 2 hours preparing. Elon's PR team coached them on camera presence, message discipline, how to deflect hostile questions without looking defensive. Remember, the PR director said, a sharp woman named Rachel who'd been handling Elon's media disasters for 5 years. You're not there to win arguments. You're there to tell your story and let people decide. Stay human. Stay humble. Don't gloat. Even though we're kind of winning, James asked. Especially then, nothing turns public opinion faster than arrogance. Rachel looked at Alex. You're going to get asked about privilege, about using your father's name and resources. Have an answer ready that doesn't sound defensive. I've been thinking about that, Alex said. The truth is, I did use privilege. Being Elon Musk's son got me resources and attention that other activists don't get. That's unfair. But I can't change who my father is, so I might as well use that platform to amplify voices that usually get ignored. That's the best I can do with the advantages I was born with. Rachel nodded, impressed. That's good, that's honest, use that. At 3:30 p.m., they loaded into 2 SUVs with tinted windows. Security in the front vehicle, Elon and the students in the second. The drive to City Hall took 15 minutes through downtown Austin. Nervous? Elon asked Alex quietly. Terrified. Good, means you care. Elon squeezed his son's shoulder. Just remember, you already did the hard part. Breaking into that building took courage. Standing in front of cameras, That's easy in comparison. Doesn't feel easy. It never does, but you've got this. We've got this. They pulled up to City Hall, where news vans and protesters had gathered. Some held signs supporting the students. Empty rooms equals empty souls and house people, not profits. Others opposed them. Law and order matters and no handouts. The division was stark, visible, real. "Welcome to America," Sophia muttered, seeing the opposing groups. They entered through a side entrance to avoid the crowd, but inside was barely calmer. City council members, reporters with camera crews, advocates from homeless organizations, real estate developers, everyone with an agenda packed into the council chambers. The mayor, Kirk Watson, greeted them personally. He was in his 60s with the smooth political smile of someone who'd been doing this for decades. "Mr. Musk, Alex, students, thank you for being here. This is going to be good, productive, a real Austin moment." "As long as it helps people," Elon said evenly. "I don't care whose moment it is." At exactly 4:00 p.m., they took the stage. Elon stood at the podium, flanked by Alex and the other students on one side, the mayor and Skyline Development CEO on the other. Camera flashes exploded. Reporters shouted questions. The mayor raised his hands for quiet. "Thank you all for being here. We're gathered today to announce a historic partnership between the City of Austin, Skyline Development Group, and the Musk family to address our housing crisis in a meaningful way." He went on, using the politician's gift for making something sound bigger than it was. But underneath the rhetoric, there was substance. 50 units committed, funding secured, case managers hired, move-ins beginning within 60 days. Then it was the Skyline CEO's turn, a nervous man in his 50s named Richard Bartlett who clearly would rather be anywhere else. "Skyline Development is committed to being a positive force in our community," he read from prepared remarks. "While we can't condone the illegal actions taken by these students, we recognize they highlighted a real need. We're proud to be part of the solution." Elon's turn. He stepped to the microphone, looking out at the sea of faces and cameras. "4 days ago, my son and his friends broke the law. They trespassed into private property. They should face legal consequences for that, and they will. But they also exposed a mathematical absurdity. We have more empty homes than homeless people, yet we treat homelessness as unsolvable. It's not unsolvable, it's a choice." He paused, letting that sink in. "I'm pledging $50 million to Austin Homeless Services, Housing First programs, and mental health support. But money isn't enough. We need policy changes. We need developers who see housing as a human right, not just an investment vehicle. We need a city that values people over property values." He looked directly at the cameras. "And we need more young people willing to break comfortable silences, even if it means breaking some laws along the way. Civil disobedience has a long, honorable history in this country. My son just added his name to that list." The room erupted, some applauding, others shouting objections. The mayor tried to restore order while reporters screamed questions. Finally, Alex stepped to the microphone. The room quieted, everyone wanting to hear the kid at the center of the storm. "My name is Alex Musk," he said, his voice shaking slightly but growing stronger. "I'm 18 years old. I broke into a building to help 7 people have a warm place to sleep. I'd do it again." Someone in the crowd yelled, "You think you're above the law?" Alex looked toward the voice. "No, I think the law is below basic human decency. There's a difference." He gripped the podium. "I know I have advantages most people don't. I know having Elon Musk as my father gives me resources and attention that others don't get. I can't change that, but I can use it. I can amplify voices that usually get ignored. I can shine a light on problems people pretend don't exist." He pulled out his phone and held it up. "Last night, I got a message from Robert Chen. He's one of the 7 people we helped. He's a veteran who served 2 tours in Afghanistan and spent 14 months sleeping under a bridge. He wrote, 'Thank you for seeing me as human. Most people look through me like I'm invisible. You looked at me. That's why I did it. Not to break the law, not to make a statement, but to see people who have been made invisible and say, you matter. You deserve shelter. You deserve dignity.'" The room was completely silent now. "I'm not a hero," Alex continued. "I'm not even a good activist. I'm just a kid who did the math and didn't like the answer. 50 people are getting housing because of what we started. That's 50 families, 50 lives changed, but it's not enough. Not even close. Austin has over 3,000 homeless individuals. 50 is a start, but it's just a start. So I'm asking everyone watching, what are you going to do? How are you going to make the math add up in your city, your community, your life? He stepped back from the microphone. The applause started slowly, then built. Not everyone, some people sat with arms crossed, unmoved, but enough. Enough that it felt like something had shifted. After the press conference, they were mobbed by reporters. Elon's security team had to physically escort them out while Rachel deflected questions with practiced ease. That's all for today. Thank you. No further questions. Thank you. In the SUV driving away, the 4 students sat in stunned silence. Did that really just happen? Marcus finally asked. That really just happened, Elon confirmed. 50 people are getting homes, Sophia said, like she couldn't quite believe it. 50 actual people. Because you broke into a building, Elon pointed out. Because you refused to accept that the math didn't work. That's the power of action over talk. Alex was quiet, staring out the window at Austin passing by. You okay? Elon asked. I don't know. I feel like I just jumped off a cliff and I'm still falling. Don't know when I'm going to hit the ground. You won't hit the ground, you'll learn to fly. Elon put his hand on his son's shoulder. And I'll be right there with you. Whatever comes next, we face it together. For the first time in years, maybe ever, Alex leaned into his father's shoulder and let himself believe it. Outside, Austin glowed in the late afternoon sun. Somewhere in the city, 50 people were about to learn they'd been chosen for the new housing program. Somewhere else, advocates and activists were planning their own actions, inspired by 4 college students. And in the SUV driving through downtown, a father and son sat together in comfortable silence, finally understanding each other. The response was just beginning, but they'd already started something that couldn't be stopped. March 28, 2024, Travis County Courthouse. 2 weeks had passed since that first press conference and the world had not stopped spinning. If anything, it had spun faster. Alex stood in front of the bathroom mirror in his father's house, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time. Court-mandated attire, his lawyer had said. Look respectful, look remorseful, look like someone the judge would want to give a second chance. But how was he supposed to look remorseful when he wasn't? A knock on the door. You ready? His father's voice. Almost. Elon entered, wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. He studied Alex for a moment, then reached over and fixed his tie properly. You look like you're going to a funeral, Elon said. Feels like it might be mine. Alex, the plea deal is solid. The DA wants this resolved quietly. You're going to get community service and probation. That's it. And a criminal record. A misdemeanor that'll barely show up on background checks. In the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. Elon stepped back, examining his work. Besides, you're not defined by one moment. You're defined by what you do with all the moments that come after. They headed downstairs where Sophia, Marcus, and James were already waiting in the living room, all dressed in formal clothes that looked borrowed or ill-fitting, all looking nervous. The past 2 weeks had been a whirlwind. Interviews on every major network, a 60-minute segment that drew 14 million viewers, op-eds in the New York Times and Washington Post. The hashtag #EmptyRoomsMath math had become a movement, with actions happening in 12 cities, though thankfully, most were protests and vigils rather than more break-ins. The Skyline Development Housing Initiative had officially launched. The first 10 formerly homeless individuals had moved into their new apartments last week. News cameras captured the moment Robert Chen walked into his own apartment for the first time in over a year, tears streaming down his face as he touched walls that were his, a bed that was his, a door he could lock from the inside. That video alone had 40 million views. But today wasn't about movements or media. Today was about consequences. Everyone got their statements ready, Sophia asked. She'd taken charge of their legal preparation, her pre-law training making her the de facto coordinator. Yeah, James said quietly, though I still think the judge isn't going to care what we say. She'll care, Elon said. Judge Patricia Morrison has a reputation for fairness. She doesn't grandstand, doesn't play to cameras. She just tries to do what's right, trust the process. They loaded into the SUVs again. Security had become routine now, 2 teams rotating shifts, always present but trying to be invisible. There'd been 3 credible threats in the past 2 weeks. One from a right-wing extremist group that saw them as spoiled communists destroying America. One from a housing developer who'd sent explicit death threats via Twitter. One from someone who simply signed their message, a concerned citizen, and promised to make sure these criminals pay. The threats were being investigated. Elon had hired additional security. Life went on, but with a constant awareness of danger lurking at the edges. The courthouse was surrounded by protesters again, more than before. Both sides had grown, the divide deepening. One group held a banner reading, "Housing is a human right." The other chanted, "Law and order, lock them up." They entered through a side entrance, but Alex caught glimpses of familiar faces in the crowd. Students from UT, people he'd never met holding signs with his name. A TV news crew doing a live shot with the courthouse behind them. "Don't look," Elon advised. "Eyes forward. We're here for the judge, not the circus." Inside, the courthouse was all marble floors and echoing hallways. Their lawyer, a sharp woman named Jennifer Chen who specialized in criminal defense, met them outside the courtroom. "Okay, here's how this goes," she said, walking them through the procedure one more time. "You'll enter, take your seats. The judge will call each case. You're all being heard together. The DA will present the agreed-upon plea deal. I'll speak on your behalf. Then each of you will have a chance to address the court if you choose. After that, the judge will make her ruling." "How long?" Marcus asked. "Maybe an hour total, maybe less if it goes smoothly." They entered the courtroom. It was smaller than Alex had imagined, rows of wooden benches, a judge's bench at the front, the Texas state flag and American flag flanking the wall. Everything felt formal, heavy with the weight of law. The gallery was packed. Alex recognized some faces, reporters he'd done interviews with, advocates from homeless organizations, even Robert Chen sitting in the back row in a dress shirt that looked new. Their eyes met and Robert nodded, a simple gesture of solidarity that made Alex's chest tight. Then he saw his mother, his other parent who'd flown in from California and was sitting near the front, face carefully neutral but eyes red like she'd been crying. They hadn't spoken much since the arrest, a few awkward phone calls where she'd alternated between pride and terror at what he'd done. "All rise," the bailiff called. Judge Patricia Morrison entered. She was in her late 50s, African-American, with gray-streaked hair pulled back and an expression that gave nothing away. She sat, adjusted her glasses, and reviewed the documents in front of her. "Be seated," she said, her voice carrying authority without harshness. "We're here today for the matter of the state of Texas versus Alex Musk, Sophia Martinez, Marcus Chen, and James Rodriguez. Charges of criminal trespassing stemming from events on the night of March 14, 2024. She looked up, studying each of them in turn. Alex felt the weight of that gaze, not hostile but searching. "I've reviewed the case files," Judge Morrison continued. "I've watched the security footage. I've read the statements from all parties involved. I've also watched, as I'm sure the rest of the world has, the media coverage that followed." She paused. "This is an unusual case. Not because of what you did, trespassing happens every day, but because of why you did it and what it's inspired." The courtroom was silent, everyone hanging on her words. "The district attorney has offered a plea agreement, misdemeanor criminal trespassing for each defendant, 200 hours of community service, specifically working with homeless services, 2 years probation with standard terms. In exchange, you plead guilty and accept responsibility for your actions." She looked at their lawyer. "Ms. Chen, do your clients accept these terms?" Jennifer stood. "Yes, Your Honor. My clients accept the plea agreement and are prepared to enter guilty pleas." "Very well. I'll hear from the prosecution first, then the defense, then the defendants themselves if they wish to speak." Judge Morrison nodded to the assistant district attorney, a young man who looked nervous to be in the spotlight. He stood and delivered a brief statement about respecting property rights and the rule of law while acknowledging the humanitarian motivations behind the crime. Professional, measured, clearly reading from a script the DA's office had carefully prepared. Then it was Jennifer's turn. "Your Honor, my clients don't dispute the facts. They entered property they had no legal right to enter. They knew it was illegal when they did it. They've never denied that." She walked around the defense table, commanding the room. But context matters, intent matters. And the question before this court is whether 4 young people who acted out of compassion to provide immediate shelter to vulnerable individuals during freezing weather should be treated the same as people who break in to vandalize or steal. She pulled up her tablet, displaying Marcus's data visualizations on a screen for the court. The evidence will show that Austin has approximately 12,000 vacant housing units, while over 3,000 individuals experience homelessness. My clients saw this mathematical absurdity and chose to do something about it. Not for profit, not for publicity, though publicity certainly followed, but because they believed human beings shouldn't sleep in freezing temperatures when warm. Empty rooms exist a few blocks away. Jennifer's voice grew stronger. They didn't hurt anyone. They didn't damage property. They didn't steal. They brought in 7 specific individuals. They built relationships with veterans, families, people with names and stories. They provided food, bedding, and dignity. And then they stayed, knowing they'd be arrested, because this was never about getting away with something. It was about forcing us all to see something we've been choosing not to see. She returned to the table. Your Honor, these 4 young people have already sparked real change. 50 housing units are being allocated to homeless services because of their action. 12 cities are reviewing vacant property policies. Donations to homeless organizations are at record levels. Yes, they broke the law, but in breaking it, they've helped fix something that was already broken, our collective willingness to accept preventable suffering as inevitable. Judge Morrison nodded slowly. Thank you, Ms. Chen. Now I'd like to hear from the defendants themselves, starting with you, Alex Musk. Alex's heart hammered as he stood and approached the podium. His prepared statement was in his pocket, but suddenly it felt wrong, too polished, too safe. He left it in his pocket and spoke from his heart. Your Honor, my name is Alex Musk. I'm 18 years old, and 14 days ago I broke into a building to help people I'd never met have a warm place to sleep. His voice shook, but he pushed through. I knew it was illegal. I knew I'd probably get caught. I did it anyway because the alternative, doing nothing while people suffered needlessly, felt worse than breaking the law. He looked at the judge directly. I understand why laws protecting property exist. I understand that if everyone just decided which laws to follow based on personal morality, society would collapse. I get that. But I also understand that laws are made by people, and sometimes people make bad laws. And when laws protect empty buildings more than they protect freezing humans, something's wrong. Alex's hands gripped the podium. I'm not asking you to excuse what I did. I'm accepting the consequences. I'll do the community service. I'll complete probation. I'll have a criminal record. But I won't say I regret it because I don't. 7 people slept warm that night who wouldn't have otherwise. And if that makes me a criminal, then I guess that's what I am. He stepped back, his legs shaking. Sophia went next. She was more composed, her pre-law training evident in her delivery. Your Honor, I grew up in El Paso. My father works construction, my mother cleans houses. I'm here on scholarship, working 2 jobs to stay in school. I understand the value of hard work and following rules. She paused. But I also understand that sometimes rules serve power instead of justice. Sometimes the law itself is the problem, not the solution. What we did was illegal, but it wasn't wrong, and I think history will prove that. Marcus spoke about data, about algorithms, about how systems perpetuate injustice when we don't question them. His quiet intensity was compelling, his technical expertise giving weight to the moral argument. Finally, James approached the podium. He looked at Robert Chen in the gallery, then back at the judge. Your Honor, I'm studying to be a social worker because I want to help people. The system I'm learning about, shelters, services, case management, it's good. It's necessary. But it's not enough. There are always more people than beds, more need than resources. And on March 14th, when the arch was at capacity and 7 people I knew were being turned away into a night that was 34 degrees, I had a choice. Follow the rules and let them freeze, or break the rules and keep them warm. He swallowed hard. I chose to keep them warm. I'd make that choice again. The courtroom was silent as James returned to his seat. Judge Morrison removed her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. For a long moment she said nothing, just sat there thinking. Finally, she spoke. I've been a judge for 17 years. I've seen every kind of case you can imagine: violent crimes, property crimes, white-collar fraud, drug offenses. And I've learned that the law, for all its wisdom, is not the same as justice. Sometimes they align, sometimes they don't. She put her glasses back on. This is one of those times when they don't quite align, What you did was illegal, clearly, unambiguously illegal. You trespassed. You accessed property you had no right to access. Under the letter of the law, you're criminals. Alex felt his stomach drop. But the judge continued, under the spirit of the law, under the principle that justice should serve human flourishing, not just property protection, what you did was something else entirely. It was an act of compassion that happened to be illegal. She looked at each of them in turn. I'm going to accept the plea agreement with one modification. Your 200 hours of community service will be served specifically working with the individuals you helped that night. You'll help them navigate housing applications, medical care, employment services. You'll see the real, long-term work of addressing homelessness, not just one dramatic night. Relief flooded through Alex. But Judge Morrison's voice hardened. I want to be clear. This ruling is not a permission slip for others to break the law whenever they think it's morally justified. Civil disobedience has a place in our society, but it comes with consequences. You're accepting those consequences today. The next person who does something similar may not be treated as leniently. She banged her gavel. 200 hours community service each, 2 years probation, standard terms, court is adjourned. The gavel's crack echoed through the courtroom. Then slowly applause began. Not from everyone, some people sat stony-faced, clearly disagreeing with the ruling. But enough people clapped that it filled the room, a wave of sound that felt like vindication. Alex turned and saw his father standing, clapping with tears in his eyes. Saw his mother crying openly. Saw Robert Chen on his feet, hands coming together again and again in gratitude. Outside the courtroom, after they'd signed papers and completed administrative tasks, they emerged to face the media circus again. But this time, it felt different. They'd faced the legal system and survived. They'd stood before a judge and told their truth. Rachel, the PR director, whispered quick instructions. Keep it brief. Acknowledge the judge's fairness. Thank your supporters. No gloating. But Alex barely heard her. He stepped to the microphone set up on the courthouse steps, his friends flanking him, his father standing slightly behind, present but not overshadowing. Thank you all for being here, Alex said to the assembled cameras and reporters. Today, justice was served. Not because we got off easy, we accepted a criminal conviction and will complete our sentence. But because Judge Morrison saw what we saw, that sometimes the law needs to bend toward humanity instead of property. He took a breath. 50 people are getting housing in Austin because of what we started, but there are still thousands more who need help. So this isn't over. This was just the beginning. We're going to serve our community service hours. We're going to keep working with homeless services. And we're going to keep asking the question we asked 2 weeks ago. In a world with more empty rooms than homeless people, what are we choosing? Because it is a choice. Every day, we choose what matters more, property or people. We're choosing people. We hope you will too. Reporters shouted questions, but Elon's security team was already moving them toward the waiting SUVs. As they walked down the courthouse steps, Alex felt his father's hand on his shoulder, steady, solid, present. They reached the vehicles, but before getting in, Alex turned back for one last look at the courthouse. The protesters were still there, signs still raised, divisions still sharp. Change was messy. Progress was complicated, but it was happening. Robert Chen caught up to them before they could leave. He looked different from the man Alex had met months ago under a bridge, clean-shaven, wearing clothes that fit, eyes that held hope instead of resignation. Alex, Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. I just wanted to say, I move into my permanent apartment next week, one of the Skyline units. They helped me apply for VA benefits I didn't know I qualified for. I start a job on Monday, maintenance at a hotel downtown. It's not much, but it's something. Robert, that's incredible, Alex said, his own eyes stinging. It's because of you and your friends. You saw me when I was invisible. You gave me one night of dignity and it reminded me I deserved more, so I started fighting for it. Robert extended his hand. Thank you for everything. They shook hands and Alex felt the weight of that gesture, not gratitude to a savior but respect between equals. Robert hadn't needed rescuing. He'd needed a chance, a moment to remember his own worth. You did the hard part, Alex said. We just opened a door. And I walked through it. That's how this works, right? Someone opens a door, someone else walks through, and maybe then more doors start opening. As they drove away from the courthouse, Alex watched Austin pass by the tinted windows. Somewhere in this city, 50 people were learning they'd been selected for housing. Somewhere else, advocates were planning next steps, organizing, strategizing. And everywhere, people were having conversations that hadn't happened before about housing justice, what society owes its most vulnerable members. "You okay?" Elon asked quietly. "Yeah," Alex said and realized he meant it. "Yeah, I really am. Proud of you, kiddo. You stood up there and told the truth even when it was hard. That takes courage." "I learned from the best," Alex said, then added, "eventually." Elon laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and warm. "Fair point. I'm a slow learner when it comes to the important stuff, but I'm learning." "We both are." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city streaming past. Then Alex's phone buzzed. A text from Sophia in the other vehicle. "We did it. Holy shit, we actually did it." Another from Marcus. "Community service with Robert and the others. That's actually perfect. We get to see this through." And from James. "My dad says he's proud of me. First time he said that since I was 12. Alex smiled and typed back to the group chat. 200 hours of community service starts next week. Who's ready to actually do the work? 3 immediate responses. "I am," "Me, let's do it." Elon glanced at the phone. "What's next for you 4? "Homework," Alex said with a slight smile. "Finals are in 3 weeks and I'm way behind. After that, I don't know, keep working, keep learning, keep trying to make the math add up." Alex looked at his father. "What about you? Back to Mars and electric cars?" "Eventually, but I'm taking some time first, spending it with you and your siblings, being present, remembering why I started all this in the first place, not to escape Earth but to make it better." Elon paused. "You reminded me of that. You reminded me that the future is made of present moments, and if we don't get the present moments right, the future doesn't matter." "That's deep, Dad." "I have my moments." Elon's expression turned serious. "Alex, I know the past 2 weeks have been overwhelming, and I know the next 2 years of probation won't be easy, but I want you to know, whatever you need, however I can help, I'm here, actually here, not just available via text or video call. Here." "I know," Alex said, "and it means everything." They pulled up to the house. Security swept the perimeter before allowing them to exit the vehicles. Routine now, part of their new normal. Inside, Maria had prepared lunch. The 5 of them, Elon, Alex, Sophia, Marcus, and James, sat around the kitchen table eating sandwiches and talking about everything except what had just happened. For an hour, they were just 5 people sharing a meal. Not a billionaire and 4 college students. Not a father and son navigating a complicated relationship. Not activists who'd started a movement, just humans being human. Later, as the sun set and the others headed to their rooms, Alex stood on the back patio looking out at the Austin skyline. The Gigafactory lights glowed in the distance. Somewhere beyond that, the SpaceX facility at Boca Chica where his father's rockets were being built for Mars. Big dreams, important work, the future of humanity. But here, now, in this moment, Alex felt something he'd been searching for without knowing it. Purpose. Connection. The sense that his life mattered beyond being someone's son. His father joined him on the patio, 2 cups of coffee in hand. He passed one to Alex. "Couldn't sleep?" Elon asked. "Too wired, still processing everything." They stood in silence, sipping coffee, watching the city lights. "You know what the judge said," Alex spoke, "about civil disobedience having a place but coming with consequences. She was right. I got off easy compared to most people who break the law for their convictions." "You had resources most people don't," Elon acknowledged. "Money for lawyers, media attention, my name opening doors. That's the reality of privilege. So what do I do with that? With the fact that I got a second chance that others wouldn't get?" Elon considered the question. "You use it. You don't waste it. You spend the next 50 years making sure that second chance led to something meaningful." He looked at his son. "And maybe you use your privilege to help others get second chances too. That's how you justify advantages you didn't earn, by making sure they're used for more than just yourself." Alex nodded slowly. 200 hours of community service. Then what? Then whatever you want. College, activism, starting something new. The world's open to you now in a way it wasn't 2 weeks ago. "Because I got arrested." Because you took a stand. Because you proved you're someone who acts on their convictions. That opens doors, Alex, more than any last name ever could. They finished their coffee as the Austin night deepened around them. Somewhere in the city, 50 people were preparing for new lives in permanent housing. Somewhere else, Robert Chen was setting an alarm for his first day at a real job in over a year. And here on this patio, a father and son stood together, finally understanding each other, finally seeing each other as more than the roles they'd been assigned. "Thanks, Dad," Alex said quietly, "for showing up, for being here, for all of it." "Thank you," Elon replied, "for giving me a reason to remember what actually matters." They went inside together, ready for whatever came next. The courtroom chapter was closed, but the story, the real story of change and consequence and choosing people over property, that story was just beginning. April 18, 2024, 3 weeks later. The conference room at Tesla's Austin headquarters was packed. Board members, executives, investors, all gathered for the quarterly meeting that could determine the company's direction for the next year, and possibly determine whether Elon Musk would remain CEO. Elon stood at the head of the long table, his laptop open, a presentation queued up. But he wasn't looking at the slides. He was looking at the faces around the table, some supportive, others barely concealing their frustration. "Before we begin the quarterly review," Board Chair Linda Yamamoto said tightly, "I think we need to address the elephant in the room." "You mean my son?" Elon asked flatly. "I mean the situation that has cost this company 7% of its market value. The situation that has dominated headlines for 3 weeks when we should be discussing our new battery technology." Her voice was controlled but sharp. "Elon, we understand family loyalty, but your very public support of criminal activity." "Misdemeanor trespassing," Elon interrupted, "let's be accurate, has damaged Tesla's brand. We've had investors pull out. We've had dealerships complain. We've had 3 executives field questions about whether this company condones property crimes." Around the table, heads nodded. Even some of his allies looked uncomfortable. Elon let the silence hang for a moment. Then he closed his laptop. "You're right," he said quietly. "The past 3 weeks have been a distraction. They've cost us market value and created uncertainty, and I take full responsibility for that." Linda looked surprised. She'd clearly been prepared for a fight. "Which is why," Elon continued, "I'm making an announcement today that I wanted you to hear first before it goes public." He straightened, meeting each person's eyes in turn. "Effective June 1st, 2024, I'm taking a 1-year sabbatical from my role as CEO of Tesla." The room erupted. "What? Elon, you can't be serious. This is insane." Linda raised her hand for silence. "Explain." Elon took a breath. "For the past 20 years I've been running toward the future: Mars, sustainable energy, artificial intelligence. Always the next big thing, the next crisis to solve, the next existential threat to address. And I've told myself it was necessary, that my work was too important to step away from, that I was literally saving humanity's future." He paused, organizing his thoughts. "But 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call at 3 a.m. that my son had been arrested. And in the hours and days that followed, I realized something. I've been so focused on saving humanity that I've been destroying my relationship with the humans who actually matter to me. My children barely know me. My son had to break into a building and get arrested to get my full attention. That's not success. That's failure in the only area that really counts." "So you're abandoning the company?" An investor named Richard Chen spoke up, his tone accusatory. "I'm not abandoning anything. I'm delegating. I'm trusting the incredible team we've built to keep doing what they do best." Elon pulled up a new slide showing an organizational chart. "Zachary Kirkhorn will serve as acting CEO. I'll remain chairman and will be heavily involved in major strategic decisions, new products, factory openings, key technology development. But day-to-day operations, quarterly earnings, investor relations, that's Zach's now." "For how long?" Linda asked. "1 year, June 2024 through June 2025. After that, we'll reassess." "And what will you be doing?" Another board member, Sarah Kim, sounded genuinely curious rather than hostile. "Being a father, actually being present for my children instead of just writing checks and sending texts. spending time with Alex as he completes his community service and figures out his next steps, being there for his siblings, learning how to be a human being instead of just a CEO. He clicked to another slide, this one showing a logo, the Empty Rooms Project. I'm also launching a foundation with Alex. We're calling it the Empty Rooms Project. Focus on connecting vacant properties with homeless services, advocating for housing policy reform, funding Housing First programs. Alex will be the director of youth programs. He's deferring college for a year to do this. I'll be involved part-time, but it's his project, his vision. I'm just providing resources and support. The room was silent, everyone processing. You're walking away from Tesla, Richard said slowly, to run a homeless advocacy nonprofit with your teenage son. I'm stepping back from Tesla, there's a difference. And yes, I'm partnering with my son on something that matters to him, something that frankly should matter to all of us. Elon's voice hardened slightly. Look, I get it. This isn't what you expected. This isn't the Elon Musk who works 120-hour weeks and sleeps on factory floors. But maybe that Elon Musk needed to evolve. Maybe he needed to learn that being present for 5 people who love you is more important than being absent for 5 billion who know your name. Linda studied him for a long moment. The stock is going to crash when you announce this. Probably, then it'll recover, it always does. Investors will panic. Let them, the fundamentals are strong. Our technology is years ahead of competitors. The team is solid. If Tesla can't survive without me micromanaging every decision, then we've built something fragile. And I don't build fragile things. This is incredibly risky, Sarah said, but her tone was more thoughtful than critical. Everything worth doing is risky. Going to Mars is risky. Building electric cars when everyone said they'd fail was risky. Raising children and actually being there for them, that's risky too. But it's the kind of risk I should have been taking all along. Another investor, James Park, spoke up. What if the foundation fails? What if this whole thing with your son doesn't work out? Then I'll have failed at something that actually matters instead of succeeding at things that don't. Elon's voice was firm. Look, I've built rockets and cars and batteries. I've accumulated wealth beyond anything I'll ever need. I've gotten every external validation our society offers. And you know what? My son had to get arrested to get me to pay attention to him. That's not a life I'm proud of. That's not a legacy I want to leave. The room fell silent again. Finally, Linda spoke. You need to understand, if the stock crashes too hard, if investors lose confidence, the board will have to consider permanent changes to leadership structure. I understand, and I accept that risk. Elon looked around the table. But I also think you'll be surprised. I think once people see that Tesla isn't dependent on my 24/7 involvement, once they see we have systems and people strong enough to operate independently, confidence will actually increase. We'll prove Tesla is a company, not a cult of personality. When are you announcing this? Linda asked. Today at the shareholder meeting, 3 p.m. Jesus, Elon, Richard muttered. You don't give anyone time to prepare, do you? The moment you start preparing is the moment you start spinning. And I'm done with spin. I'm just telling the truth. I'm a father who realized almost too late that his children need him more than his companies do. The meeting continued for another hour, working through logistics, transition plans, communication strategies. But the energy had shifted. Some board members remained hostile, others thoughtful. But everyone understood. This was happening whether they liked it or not. 2:45 p.m. Tesla shareholder meeting. The auditorium was packed with shareholders, analysts, and journalists. The quarterly meeting was always well attended, but today's crowd was larger than usual. Word had leaked that Elon was making a major announcement. Backstage, Alex stood with his father, both dressed in suits. You sure about this? Alex asked quietly. Dad, you're giving up being CEO of Tesla, the company you built. I'm not giving it up, I'm stepping back, there's a difference. Elon adjusted his tie, looking more nervous than Alex had ever seen him. And yes, I'm sure. Are you? Because once I announce the foundation, once I put your name out there as director, you're committed. No backing out. I'm ready. Alex was surprised to find he meant it. The past 3 weeks had been transformative. His community service had started, working with Robert, Diana, and the others, helping them navigate housing applications, job training, medical appointments, seeing the real, unglamorous work of addressing homelessness. It was exhausting and frustrating and occasionally heartbreaking. It was also the most meaningful thing he'd ever done. "Good," Elon said, "because we're about to make this official." They walked out onto the stage together. The crowd's reaction was immediate: surprise, confusion, cameras flashing. Alex Musk wasn't supposed to be at a Tesla shareholder meeting. Elon stepped to the microphone. "Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I know you're expecting the usual quarterly review, sales figures, production numbers, new product announcements. We'll get to all that. But first, I need to talk to you about something more important than quarterly earnings." The room quieted, everyone leaning forward. 3 weeks ago, my son Alex was arrested for criminal trespassing. He and 3 friends broke into a vacant luxury apartment building to provide shelter to 7 homeless individuals during a freezing night. Elon's voice was steady, clear. "Many of you saw the headlines. Some of you sold your Tesla stock because of it, and I understand that reaction. I'm standing here as the CEO of a major company, and my son is a convicted criminal. That's not great optics." Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. But here's what those headlines didn't capture. My son didn't get arrested because he's troubled or reckless or entitled. He got arrested because he has a moral compass that actually works, because he saw suffering he could alleviate and chose action over comfort, because he's braver and more principled than I've ever been. Elon paused, his voice thickening slightly. "And in standing by him these past 3 weeks, in being actually present for the crisis and the aftermath, I've learned something crucial. I've been doing this wrong, all of it, for years." The room was completely silent now. "I've been so focused on the future, on getting humanity to Mars, on solving climate change, on building electric cars and sustainable energy, that I've neglected the present. I've missed birthdays and school events and casual dinners. I've been an absent father who told himself it was okay because the work was important. But you know what's more important than saving humanity's future? Being present for the humans in your life right now. Your children. Your family. The people who love you not because of what you've built, but because of who you are." He took a breath. "So I'm making a change. Effective June 1st, I'm taking a 1-year sabbatical from my role as CEO of Tesla." The auditorium erupted, gasps, shouts, confused murmurs. Elon waited for the noise to die down. "Zachary Kirkhorn will serve as acting CEO. I'll remain chairman and heavily involved in strategic decisions. But day-to-day operations are his responsibility now, because I need to be a father, actually fully present as a father, and I can't do that while working 120-hour weeks." He gestured to Alex, who stepped forward. "My son and I are launching a foundation together, the Empty Rooms Project. We're focusing on housing advocacy, policy reform, and direct services. Alex is the director of youth programs. He's deferring college for a year to do this work, and I'm going to be there with him, not just funding it from a distance, but actually present, actually involved." Elon looked directly at the cameras in the back. "I know some of you think this is crazy, that I'm abandoning my responsibilities at Tesla to chase some feel-good charity project with my kid. But here's what I've realized. Tesla doesn't need me 24/7. We've built something stronger than that. We have incredible engineers, brilliant executives, talented workers at every level. If the company can't function without my constant involvement, then we've failed to build a real institution." He paused, his tone shifting to something more vulnerable. "But my son, he does need me. All my children do, and I've been failing them for years by prioritizing everything else. So I'm making a different choice now. I'm choosing people over products, family over factories, the present over the future." Another pause, letting it sink in. "I know the stock will probably drop when I finish talking. I know some of you will sell your shares. I know analysts will question my judgment. And honestly, that's okay. Because for the first time in 20 years, I'm making a decision based on what actually matters rather than what looks good on an earnings report." He stepped back from the microphone, then forward again, one more thing to say. "My son taught me something these past 3 weeks. He taught me that you can have all the success in the world, all the money, all the fame, all the accomplishment, and still fail at the things that matter. He also taught me it's never too late to change. Never too late to choose differently. Never too late to become the person your children need you to be. Elon's voice broke slightly. So that's what I'm doing. I'm choosing to be his father, fully, actually, for the first time in his life, really. And if that costs Tesla some market value, if that makes me look weak or distracted or uncommitted, well, I'd rather be a good father with a lower stock price than a bad father with a higher one. He stepped back, and this time Alex stepped forward to the microphone. "Hi," Alex said, his voice nervous but growing stronger. "For those who don't know me, I'm Alex Musk. I'm 18 years old. I'm a convicted criminal, and I'm about to tell you why my father's decision isn't crazy. It's the sanest thing he's ever done." He gripped the podium, finding his voice. 3 months ago, I barely knew my dad. I mean, I knew him. He's Elon Musk. Everyone knows him, but I didn't know him as a father. He was always somewhere else, always working, always saving the world. And I understood, sort of. His work is important. Electric cars matter. Going to Mars matters. But Alex paused, gathering his thoughts. But when I got arrested, something changed. My dad showed up, not his assistant, not his lawyers, him. At 3 a.m., he drove to the jail. He sat with me. He listened. And in the 3 weeks since, he's been more present than he's been in the past 3 years. And you know what? It made me realize something. We don't need Elon Musk, the CEO, as much as we think we do. Tesla will be fine. SpaceX will be fine. The companies will survive. But his son, I was not fine. I was drowning, trying to matter, trying to be seen. And the only person whose attention I really wanted was never there. His voice strengthened. So when people say my dad is abandoning Tesla, they're wrong. He's not abandoning anything. He's finally prioritizing right. He's finally understanding that being a good father is harder and more important than being a good CEO. And honestly, I think that makes him better at both. Alex looked at his father, then back at the crowd. The Empty Rooms project isn't a publicity stunt. It's not a vanity project. It's us, father and son, trying to do something that matters, together. Actually together, not just our names on the same letterhead. He stepped back, and Elon returned to the microphone for final words. "I know you have questions. We'll do Q&A in a moment, but first I want to say one more thing." He looked out at the sea of faces. "Some of you invested in Tesla because you believe in the mission. Some because you believe in me. Some just because you think we'll make money. All those reasons are valid, but I'm asking you now to believe in something else, that a company can be bigger than any one person. That leadership can evolve. That choosing family doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. It means expanding what we're responsible for." He smiled slightly. "And if you can't believe in that, then sell your shares. I mean it. If Tesla's value to you is entirely dependent on my 24/7 involvement, then we've both made a mistake. But if you believe we've built something real, something that can grow and evolve and continue to change the world even while I step back to be a better father, then stay. Hold your shares. Trust the team. Trust the mission. And maybe, just maybe, trust that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you've been doing it wrong and choose to do it better." He stepped back. "Now questions." The auditorium exploded with raised hands. For the next hour, Elon and Zachary Kirkhorn fielded questions about the transition, the timeline, the implications. Some questions were hostile, others supportive. The stock price, visible on screens around the room, dropped 4% in the first 15 minutes, then stabilized, then started climbing back up. By the end of the meeting, it was only down 15%. As they left the stage, Alex walked beside his father, both of them drained but oddly energized. "That was either the bravest or stupidest thing you've ever done," Alex said. "Probably both." Elon put his arm around his son's shoulders. "But it was true. And I'm done saying things just because they're strategic. I'm saying what's true now and dealing with the consequences. Even if the board tries to fire you. They can try. I own the majority vote. But even if they could, yes, even then. Because some things are more important than being CEO." They walked out of the auditorium into the Austin afternoon sun. News vans were already setting up for live shots. Social media was exploding with reactions, some calling Elon's announcement inspiring, others calling it corporate suicide. But Alex noticed something else. As they walked to the car, several shareholders approached, not to complain but to thank them. "Mr. Musk, I'm a single father," one man said, his voice thick with emotion. I work 70 hours a week trying to provide for my kids and I barely see them. What you said up there, it hit me, thank you. A woman in her 50s. My dad was like you, always working, always building something. He missed my entire childhood. He died 5 years ago and all I have are memories of an empty chair at the dinner table. I'm glad your son gets something different. A younger investor. I bought Tesla stock because I believed in the mission. But what you're doing now, this is a different kind of mission. I'm holding my shares. Do the work. One by one, people approached with stories, with gratitude, with support. Not everyone, plenty of people were angry or confused, but enough that it mattered. As they finally reached the car, Alex's phone buzzed with messages from Sophia, Marcus, and James. Sophia, holy shit. Your dad just quit Tesla to hang out with us. That's the most baller thing I've ever seen. Marcus, the stock is recovering. Analysts are calling it surprisingly mature leadership evolution. You guys broke capitalism. James, tell your dad thank you. My dad just called. He said Elon's speech made him realize he's been doing the same thing. He's cutting back his hours to spend more time with us. Your dad just changed our family. Alex showed the messages to Elon, who read them with tears in his eyes. See, Alex said, you didn't quit anything. You just started something different, something that matters more. They drove through Austin, heading back to the house where the other students were waiting. The city looked different to Alex now, not just a place where he'd gone to college, but a place where he'd found purpose, where he'd learned that breaking rules sometimes meant fixing what was broken, where he'd discovered his father was human, flawed, capable of change. What now? Alex asked. Now we do the work, Elon said. The foundation launches officially in 2 weeks. We've got meetings with city officials, housing advocates, policy experts. We've got your community service to complete. We've got 1,000 details to figure out. And we do it together, actually together. And Tesla will be fine, better than fine. They'll learn they don't need me hovering over every decision. And when I come back in a year, I'll come back better, more balanced, more present, more human. You think you can really change after 20 years of being that person? Elon was quiet for a moment. I don't know, probably not completely. I'll always be driven, always want to solve problems, always think too much about the future. But maybe I can be that person and also be your father. Maybe I can care about Mars and also care about making sure you know you matter more than any mission to any planet. They pulled into the driveway. Through the windows, Alex could see the others inside. Sophia, Marcus, James working on something together, probably planning the next phase of their advocacy. You ready for this? Elon asked. Really ready, because there's no going back now. You're committed. Director of Youth Programs, Empty Rooms Project. That's real. That comes with real responsibility. I'm ready, Alex said, and he was, terrified, uncertain, but ready. Let's change some math. They got out of the car and walked toward the house together, father and son, CEO on sabbatical and convicted activist. Two people who'd spent 18 years barely knowing each other, now choosing to actually be present. Inside, Sophia looked up from her laptop. How'd it go? He quit Tesla to hang out with us, Alex said with a grin. Sabbatical, Elon corrected. There's a difference. Barely, Marcus said, also grinning. Dude, the internet is losing its mind. Half the business world thinks you're insane, the other half thinks you're a hero. What do you think? Elon asked. The 4 students looked at each other, then at him. We think you're a dad who's finally figuring out how to be a dad, James said simply. That's not crazy or heroic, that's just right. Elon felt something crack open in his chest, something that had been closed for years, maybe decades. Permission to be human. Permission to fail at business stuff and succeed at family stuff. Permission to choose differently. Okay then, he said, sitting down at the table with them. Show me what you're working on. Let's actually do this thing. And they did. For the next 3 hours, they worked together, planning, strategizing, dreaming about what the Empty Rooms project could become. Not Elon lecturing and the students listening, but real collaboration. Ideas bouncing back and forth, everyone contributing, everyone valued. It wasn't perfect. There were disagreements and confusion and moments of frustration. But it was real. It was present. It was 5 humans trying to solve a problem together. Outside, the Austin sun set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. News coverage continued, analysts debating Elon's decision, shareholders reacting, competitors speculating about Tesla's future without its visionary CEO. But inside the house, none of that mattered. What mattered was a father finally showing up, a son finally feeling seen, 4 young people discovering their power to change systems, and all of them learning that sometimes the biggest surprise isn't what you achieve, it's who you become in the process of trying. The sabbatical hadn't even started yet, but the transformation was already complete. And that was the end of this story. A 3 a.m. phone call that became a movement. A father who finally showed up. A son who proved that courage isn't about never being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified. And 7 people who slept warm on a cold night, reminding us all that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is make the math add up for someone else. So tell me, where are you listening from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I love hearing from you all around the world. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently about what one person can do, please hit that like button. It helps more people discover stories like this, stories about real courage, real change, and real humanity. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We share stories like this every week, tales of people who chose compassion over comfort, action over apathy, and love over indifference. Finally, share this video with your friends and family. Not for me, but because stories like this matter. Because someone you know might need to hear that it's never too late to change. That breaking the rules sometimes means fixing what's broken. That being present for the people who matter is the most important work any of us will ever do. Spread kindness, spread awareness, spread hope. Until next time, remember, the world changes when ordinary people decide the math doesn't work and choose to do something about it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next story.